Welcome back, everybody, to the Lethal Introspection Podcast with your usual gang here. Matt, say hello, Jose.
Hey.
And Hannah.
Hello.
And we just got back from an 11 a.m. matinee to see Dune 2 after a long stretch of time of wanting to recommend the first movie for the podcast. We decided to wait until the second part was out so that Hannah and Jose could see it in all of its glory. So this is going to be kind of a weird episode. We're trying to smash two movies together, both part 1 and 2. There's about 5 hours of content, all derived from a book that's about 3 times that length to get through. I'm going to try to be the resident Dune nerd, having seen every film adaptation, TV adaptation, and read the book. However, I want to preface this entire podcast with, I am not the Dune nerd that I could be. Or that I should be, probably. So, with all that said, and I'm going to do my best to not say, well, in the book, every 5 minutes. That's the other challenge I'm going to impose on myself. So if you guys can hold me accountable, that'd be great. All right.
I'm going to keep account.
Yeah, you better.
We're going to penalize you after.
Take points away.
Yeah. Set the timer counter now.
So why don't we start it off with first impressions, as we usually do, and we'll go to... Let's go with Jose. Jose, tell us about your Dune journey. When did it start?
Yesterday, less than 24 hours ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, Dune is something that you hear about pretty much I've heard about my entire life. And although it has always sounded cool, all of the little stills and vignettes I've seen of the 80s movie never really gave me a lot of hope that I would enjoy it. And so it just kind of stayed in the ether of imagination. I was like, I bet everybody else thinks it's really cool, and I'm really glad, And and then when I heard that the new iteration of it had come out, I still felt pretty lukewarm about the concept of wanting to go see it, especially because it was a part 1 situation, and I, just being a resident of the contemporary, understand that part 1 just pretty much just means just preface.
Yep.
And given that, I was 100% correct. I feel very vindicated in myself in having waited until literally the last moment to have seen part 1 for the first time. Yeah, it didn't let me stew in it too hard, which I feel is to the movie's benefit, because if I would have started thinking about it too much, I might have not have enjoyed it as much. But now that I have the second one, this second one galvanizes the crap out of the first one. To the point that I was sitting in the theater being like, man, I like this one so much more that I don't even feel like I needed to watch that the first one yesterday. It's like, oh man, I could have totally used up that 2.5 hours yesterday to do something else, but that's pretty much the first initial feeling and impact that I have of the series now that I am inducted into at least one iteration of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad we went with this one for your first iteration. As you say, the 80s versions are strange. Hannah, fresh off the heels of Dune Part 2, how you feeling?
Are we doing my impression of Dune Part 2 or the whole thing?
As much as we can, I think we'll try to wrap them together. We can talk about them separately as we go, but yeah, full picture, big picture.
Yeah. I mean, unlike Jose, Dune isn't a totally new concept to me. I think you and I watched the Lynch version like years ago, but I barely remember it. So I won't try to reference that at all, but I never read the books or anything. So this is actually my first time even knowing the second half of the Dune story at all, which is frustrating to not have that story and finish. We watched the first movie when it came out, so it's been a minute, and we rewatched the first one yesterday. So for me, I've always really enjoyed the first one. It's a little long for me, usually rounding 3 hours. I know it's not quite there. It's like 240 something, but I start to get a little bit like fidgety, like I want to do something else. But I think it's a really well done movie, and I enjoyed part 1 the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it this time yesterday, and I really enjoyed part 2. Usually I like the first one better in groups of 2 movies because I like exactly what I hate about it. I think I like all the context and introducing characters and all of that. And this one, I don't know which one I prefer, but I really enjoyed part 2.
Yeah. Having been a longtime student of the Dune franchise, I was really excited when they announced they were going to reboot it. When we watched part 1 a couple of years ago, 2021, I think it was. I was ecstatic. I blown away. I, in comparison to the other adaptations, this Villeneuve's version feels like the most cinematic. It feels really big, and like it's sort of a return to form for what a grand epic should look like on screen. For me, it's been a really long time since I saw a movie capture a story like that so well on the screen. And coming away from part 2 now, I just want to echo what Jose said. It completely galvanizes part 1. I couldn't tell you how many times we were sitting in those chairs where I was getting chills every time Paul used the voice, or the first time he rode Shai Hulud. Big old nerd chills all over the place.
I teared up a little.
Yeah. Yeah, some of that happy crying that you get from when really cool shit happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a little bit of that too. Coming away from it now, like all I can think about is, when is Messiah coming out? When are they going to make it? And I imagine they will, because apparently this one's breaking the box office pretty well. So that's pretty cool.
Just to throw this out here, the first thing that I noticed watching the first movie again is, and I know just diving right into something tactical, but it's really beautifully filmed. And I don't know if I didn't notice that the first time around quite as strongly, because I was covering the story. It was the first time I saw the movie, but the color schemes were all done super masterfully. All the scenes were striking to me, or almost all of them.
Yeah, the art direction really blows me away. All of the color grading that they had to do for the different planets, Caladan and Arrakis, and I forget what the Harkonnen home planet is called right now.
Guidin Prime.
Yeah, Guidi Prime. Getty, something like that. Yeah, the color, the contrast of the white and the black, and then sharply juxtaposed against Arrakis's like sad tan.
But
Thought it was like expensive looking tan.
Yeah. So yeah, part 1. I what I'm curious about for you guys, because I know that's sort of a learning curve. How did you feel taking in all of that information? Because part 1 is definitely an exposition film.
I mean, I'll jump right in to say that doing a podcast on Dune at all makes me a little nervous, because there is a whole universe to learn, to be able to talk about. And just even introducing this is like, I'm not going to be able to keep all that straight. I'm going to say things that are wrong while we're filming the podcast, and then we're going to post it on YouTube. And hopefully like really, really diehard Dune fans don't see it, you know?
It'd be great if they did.
Hopefully they just keep watching it, because the down button doesn't mean anything anymore.
That's so true.
That's true.
That's
Keep
called
watching it,
engagement.
nerds. Yeah.
Give us that interaction.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get it all wrong on purpose.
Yeah. But at the same time, I love that. There's something about, you know, for me, it was like Harry Potter, like building a whole universe is exciting. It's Lord of the Rings for a lot of people. And I like learning it. I like building it up in my brain and getting that whole picture together. But yeah, they use so many words that are, you know, exclusive to the Dune universe that during the first movie, even now, I found myself a little bit, and this is pretty fresh for me because we have a Dune board game that has a lot of these words in it that we've been playing more recently. But it's still like they say the words so fast in context, and you're like, I need like 5 seconds to think of what that means so I know what they're talking about. Like they lose me in the dialogue every once in a while, and I have to remember it and then catch back up.
Right.
Yeah, very true. As a whole, the first movie and its direction really made me think back on Star Wars, because Dune as a concept was created in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Solid
64.
decade before Star Wars episode, New Hope. So this movie just makes me think George Lucas is such a hack. It's like, oh my God, like,
ooh, hot take.
there is an unbelievable amount of cribbing that, just even from this, you can tell, just from the fact that you have the novel in your hands, right? And your mind's eyeing like the scenes as it's happening, right? And hopefully it's even cooler than what's happening in the movie, you know, inside of your mind's eye as it's occurring, right? So that means that what I just saw right now, which is essentially like a mature Star Wars movie, you know, is essentially what, you know, those people saw inside of their head as they were reading that book a decade beforehand, and then were like, well, I'm the director. Guess who's gonna make a movie first? Yeah. And it was unbelievably jarring a little bit, because even the Disney Star Wars really, like, you can really feel the interplay, you know, between that, because it's like Dune looks like that because that is like the original source material of that concept of, like, you know, of space empires and, like, you know, noble houses and space witches and wizards, you know what I mean? So then and then it's so obvious that Star Wars would look like that too, given that, you know, just building on top of itself kind of thing. Yeah, no, you know, this is just more observation than like cruel jest. I mean, you know, like poke at George Lucas, because it's like nice, you know, that somebody bothered to bring, you know, like this to life in many different types of it just showcases how strong the actual iconography and like concept as a whole, that it doesn't matter what you can name the planet, if it's deserty and it has giant worms that can eat you in one bite, it's effective, you know. That's what I left me feeling at the end of part one, which is maybe why I didn't feel like I liked it as much as I could have, you know. Just because of the fact that a lot of it felt like genre rewashing to a particular degree. It's like it's a sci-fi medieval movie, essentially. It's like a medieval sci-fi movie, and just this is like the fatigue of the present, essentially. You know, like just us having lived 50 years worth of content from the original iteration of this. You know, that like I can't give this great movie a fair shake because I'm already so tired.
Didn't get here first for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's which peppers into my whole to beginning to talk about the story, right? About like the concept of at the very beginning, it's like documentary-esque because they're doing a light bit of info dumping of being like, here's Huracan. These are the damn it, I'm blanking on the name of the house. What's the name?
Atreides?
No, the bad one.
Harkonnen.
Sorry. Arrakis is the name of the planet, Dune, right? And then what's the name of
They say it like Harkonnen in this movie, but Matt says it's been Harkonnen in
every other iteration that I've watched or listened to, like I listened to the audiobook, it's always been Harkonnen.
Oh,
so I might slip up
with a valley with a deep O. Harkonnen.
Yeah, Harkonnen.
I like that better. Yeah, that sounds a lot.
It sounds cooler.
Yeah,
right?
It sounds a lot easier to remember. Okay, Harkonnen. The biggest issue that I had with the beginning, with that documentary section of the movie, and essentially the whole first movie as a whole, was the fact that they never really sold me on the concept that the Harkonnen were a genuine threat to the Fremen. Like they show them in that, like they show them in the documentary scene, right? They're like, yeah, they're extracting the spice, and even then in that documentary scene, they're showing the Fremen blowing up the whole extractor right then and there, and then they're like, yeah, the Emperor told them to leave because like they weren't doing a good enough job, you know, like the planet wasn't secure, so they had to leave, and like. So just from then, I just felt like the antagonist, or you know, the pseudo antagonist, already felt like a little deflated in that way, you know. And then, but you know, under the understanding that like, oh, it's like the Emperor's machinations in the background trying to do X and Y. Like they don't, you know, they don't leave it 100% in the air. They, you know, at least they do everybody the decency of having Paul's dad, you know, say is like, we know that this is a trap. Like we know this, like that the Emperor is trying to weaken us because he doesn't like us right now, you know? So yeah, I like the fact that nobody was like, what? Oh, you know, like, I can't believe this would happen to us, you know?
Right.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
I feel like that's, for me, I get that a little bit. I think in the early narration in the first movie, they call out the Harkonnen, I'm just going to go with you guys, being really cruel to the Fremen. And there was like when they first showed up on Arrakis. They were crowded around, and someone in their group says basically like it was mandatory that they would come here before. So first, I don't know how, if they don't know where the Fremen are, but in some way they're definitely controlling their behaviors to some degree. And for me, this isn't really like a meaty thing for sure, but for me, that struggle for them and like failure to be successful in like securing the planet and controlling the spice was like offset a little bit for whatever reason by the Baron for me, because he's scary and he's this weird, eerie kind of character that, like, even though I didn't take most of the Harkonnen seriously for a lot of it, I always took the Baron seriously.
Yeah, he's a pretty formidable figure, much more so in the books. He gets a lot more dialogue,
That's
so you get
one.
to spend, yep, count it up. You get to spend a lot more time with him, and he's such an important character that it kind of bums me out that he didn't get as much screen time as maybe he should have.
They make him kind of bumbling
Yeah,
in this movie, which is unfortunate because it's like he's got the dark charisma in the first one that that does totally lend itself to making be like, okay, these guys are all goons because they're being led by the main, by the main pretty much like puppeteer of the whole situation. Like, he doesn't want smart people in the bottom. I mean, like throughout, like he wants to be the one to rule it all. I felt that, but at the same time, quite not as you meet him more. Like it was more like the first time I met him in that shower scene, or like where he's like all naked and like he's like they're beginning to talk about the fact that it's like, yeah, like they're giving him the planet. It's like, but we're going to attack him right after. It's like that, and that very first time when he used his jetpack to stand up. Oh man, that part was creepy.
It's so creepy.
But only because I didn't know what I was looking at. Like now on a second viewing, it won't have that kind of effect on me because I thought this man was a worm. I thought what I was looking at was this fucking guy standing up like a straight up like a dune worm essentially, and I was like, holy shit, like there's a guy to fight,
there's a villain.
Yeah.
That's a boss fight right there.
Exactly. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Especially because the movie goes out of its way to quietly infer that the Empire of Man at this point is a transhumanist thing, that like every planet has like its niche in and of itself as to like what they bring to the Imperium, whether it be like through DNA manipulation or because of like martial prowess, like the like House Atreides, right? Yeah, that was a nice thing to keep looking for throughout part 1 and 2, was the fact that I never, since the House Atreides is the one that looks most human, like contemporary human.
Yeah,
I was like, what makes these guys so special? What I mean, to the point that the Emperor would be like, these guys, I need to make sure that this line absolutely dies. But the movie does do a very good job of having it so like the top tier fighters really showcase the fact that when it comes to hand, they can take on a whole bunch of people like before they inevitably fall. What was his name? Idaho.
Duncan Idaho.
Duncan Idaho.
Unfortunately played by Jason Momoa.
I mean, I'm really glad that Jason got another chance to pretty much play Khal Drogo all over again, Yeah.
I was even thinking this movie today. I was like, this is like space Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure George R.R. Martin has read Dune.
Yeah.
No. Probably hasn't read any of the classics.
Like, no, I don't want to pollute my mind.
I have to invent it from scratch.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it was funny. We were watching it last night, and the first time we watched part 1, it was all I could think about every time he was on screen was, why Jason? Why him? He could have went with any other tough-looking guy. I liked on the rewatch. I liked his dialogue a lot more. Having rewatched it, I thought it was better than my initial.
We saw Aquaman like not that long before we watched the first Dune movie, and we were like, not in a place for Jason Momoa.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I can see how you would have had your fill.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, like the first movie has such an unbelievable, at least this iteration again. I mean, like, I don't know if this is like a transcendental thing, but like it is such a like coming of age, young adult feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, that a character like Duncan Idaho being played by Jason Momoa doesn't feel out of place. Like if this would have been a rated R Dune, you know, a little bit more genuinely more gritty with more just, you know, like dark fantastical concepts, you know, of it, I can see how he would be jarring to that, you know, but him always having a smile on his face and just being so like, you know, like toward everything, it works because Paul is like 16, 17 in the situation, you know, and they've been friends for like a whole decade at this point, right? So it's like his 6 to his 16, you know what I mean? So it's like the camaraderie there worked really well, especially because he only ever really interacted with Paul. Like Duncan never had the opportunity to interact with anyone else. They only ever show that small future past vignette where like he's showing them hanging out with the Fremen, you know, but even then no dialogue. It's just assume that he gets along well with them. So I think they slotted him in really, really well. They used his qualities to the right degree in this movie, and they let him go at the right time in the movie too. I think like I don't feel like he overstayed his welcome in any type of way. And if anything, I enjoyed the fact that because the movie plays with the whole potential futures prophecy aspect of it, you're always kind of hoping against hope that like the prophecy is wrong and like he's not going to die in that hallway kind of situation, you know. So it's like, so even in that way, the movie kind of already like adds like an extra layer of like foundation of being like, well, like even if you don't like Jason Momoa, I mean, like maybe like just the character he's playing, you know, and the circumstances that he's in where he's like interspliced with prophecy. It's like, you know, because a lot of people nowadays like the whole like, you know, bucking prophecy entirely, and a lot of media nowadays does go with that, you know, especially new like remakes of old things, like just to be contemporary. Final Fantasy 7 just almost, you know, went, you know, brand new video game that's like another video game for one video game. They're pretty much doing the exact same thing to, you know, that series but in video game form. Yeah, they're just adding random crap, you know what I mean, to it. And I'm sure that in the director's mind, they're like, we really need to make sure that even if we stay true to the source material, we're always leaving that crumb of possibility that, oh, we're going to take it a different way, you know, keep paying attention, you know.
Yeah, and there are some creative decisions taken with both the films as compared to the source material. And I'm not even going to mention them because then that's points against me. So.
Because they're not even relevant.
You already lost a point, so you might as well gain a point.
So one of the something that I worry about, something that I think the film and TV adaptations struggle with is the depth of the lore and the vocabulary that they're trying to get across in as watchable amount of time as possible. I know when we first watched it that you struggled with, we had to keep pausing. You're like, what did he just say? I'm like, Kwisatz Haderach. You're like, what the fuck is that? Like, don't worry about it yet. We're going to get to it. There's so much name dropping and vocabulary usage that I feel like it's almost an inappropriate medium to portray the story in, but just for that little slice of it. Did you guys feel like, I don't know, behind the curve, like you were struggling to catch up? I know you said that when we first started.
Yeah, it's a mix for me, to be honest with you. I know that this is something that Jose particularly doesn't appreciate in movies, is when like it's too much spoon feeding, you know, and they're defining everything for you. It makes the story less believable right out of the gate. So I like that they don't slow down for me, but the beginning of the movie, the first time, and even coming back to it after such a long time, was difficult for me because like it feels a little bit like culture shock. Like I don't remember all the ins and outs. And there's also a couple different words for some things, like Dune versus Arrakis, which didn't get explained until the second movie.
Right.
But the name of the movie is Dune.
Right.
And we watched the first movie last night and I wasn't fresh on a lot of it. And I literally looked at Matt and I was like, but what's Dune?
So when's Dune showing up? When's Dune showing
What
up?
is this whole Dune thing they keep talking about?
Yeah.
Is that like a cave under the planet?
Yeah. But I will say too that there is something in this movie too that I like really grew to appreciate around the corner of the second movie, is names mean something in this movie. And I think it would have been cheapened to just use our regular words for things or names that weren't super strong. So while I think it, like, I made a deposit of energy into this movie at the beginning, trying to follow behind it and understand what's going on, I feel like I got my investment back and more around the second side of it, where, you know, the names of everything really, really played into, like, for me, the energy and the emotion at the end of the story. I mean, especially for Dune and Arrakis, like realizing that Dune is the Fremen word for the planet and it was named Arrakis by the Harkonnen, basically.
Which sounds like a word they would make up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know. And like in the Fremen like culture too, like the names that they use and like when they name Paul, it's, I don't know, maybe because they're unfamiliar to me, the names are really, really powerful and really moving. So I appreciate them. I appreciated them very much by the end of the story.
Yeah, no, the amount of lore dumping on the first one I feel was just right. There are certain things that I feel that could have actually even been explained just a hair longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's really tough to say. Like the beginning was, you know, that prologue documentary for nobody in particular, for literally the audience.
Yep.
Like,
well, Paul did just move to this planet. He needs to freshen up on his culture.
right. No, but see, I liked those. I like those very explicit lore dumps when Paul is watching the info, like the video reels, because I'm like, okay, at least here we're anchored around the concept that he doesn't know, and I obviously don't know, so we can at least, you know, tandem this information together. It isn't just being thrown at me because the director literally couldn't find any other place to put this important information in the movie. You know, they did that really well. And then the things that couldn't be explained, like Hannah said, they just let them be words. They just let them be things that you will understand through context, because we're going to be saying these words a lot. And you're going to be noticing that we point at somebody when we say these words, and you'll understand that they are that word, you know.
Around the third or fourth time, you'll be like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just so strange. Like, it's such a culture shock to watch the story, just because it feels so known to me. You know, the prophesized but like the prophesized / fabricated prince, you know, / messiah situation, you know, is like, again, just well worn at this point. And man, yeah, like watching the execution of the most original of concepts of it was awesome, especially because, again, it just made everything else feel so cheap. It's like the whole concept of like Luke Skywalker training and stuff like that. It's just like, oh god, it's just like
boo. There is something about Dune, as opposed to like when you were first comparing it to Star Wars too. There's something about this that feels more serious to me. Maybe more like sophisticated or something like that. That, I don't know. It feels heavier.
No, totally. I mean, you can 100% tell that this is the source material of these concepts, because they're just like waving their hand about it, and it's like the scene gets made like that because you can work with it, as opposed to just being like, well, how do we crib without 100% having an attorney call us right afterward? You know, it's like that takes a lot more effort and time, you know, than maybe perhaps actually being original.
Gotta make concessions.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, like the whole concept of the space witches, you know, it's like, holy shit, like they're just Sith. Like they're literally just female Siths, all of them, you know, or at least Grey Jedi kind of situation.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, we're like, there's no, you know, I like that in the second movie where they reveal where the mother reveals the fact that she's like, there's no, you know, there's no this team and that team. It's like, we're just moving all of the humans forward. Like this is, you know, we're all in this together kind of thing.
Yeah, I really like that aspect of it. There's a sort of running theme in the book, and apparently in the rest of the novels, which I haven't read, and they mention it. I think they only have one dialogue line in the movie, but there's this theme of plans within plans that is like central to the Dune lore that mostly focuses on this idea that the Bene Gesserits have been, they make plans that last centuries, or that's how big and grandiose their plans are. So they I wish they did a little more.
Well, they mentioned, they throw lines about that in this. I don't know if it's now I'm like melding both of the concepts. Now it's just Dune to me now.
The big one.
Yeah.
The big Dune.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, like they mentioned that exact thing in the movie, that you can't really trust them in that way because they're not working for you or, or any one house, or, or for the benefit of any one person. Like they're even willing to take losses as,
Part of the plan.
Yeah.
I don't think it was missed on. There was maybe only one line that said it really clearly, said plans within plans, but I felt that they insinuate it constantly, and I felt like they did a really good job of setting like the Bene Gesserit air in this movie. Even when, what does she say? I think she said, "We don't hope, we plan." Like obviously kicking it off with "We're the Bene Gesserit." And I think little things like that were said a lot of times. And the fact that they're behind all of this, like the fact that, House of Atreides getting liquidated is how they said it in the movie, is like the Emperor's behind that. But the Bene Gesserit are behind that. That is plans within plans.
And all for House Atreides to come out ahead at the end of it.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, flying the banner of House Atreides above an army of Fremen. It's very. What do you guys think about the prophecy of Paul, and like, I get how are you thinking about it in the term? Like, I'll just say what always comes to mind for me is the Nair of Irene. It's one of the reasons Morrowind is one of my favorite RPGs, is because
I wonder if they ever watched Dune.
Yeah, I imagine, because
Probably.
this whole idea of a prophet, of a, what do they call it? A prophecy coming true.
Right.
And there are potential candidates. And it's not as if the prophecy is like written in the stars, it'll happen this way. It's that if things go right, if they do this, if they do that, then parts of the prophecy will come true.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's interesting that you make that tie. Yeah, because I mean, in that way, right, Azura just does work exactly like a Jenny Bezeret in that way, right? She's like, I see one potential, like Paul mentioned in the second one, it's like, I see one alley here that we can win. It's like, it isn't like, but there's a ton where we lose, but it's like, if you follow this particular way, we can get something out of it, which I thought was, just a great solid representation of what it means to see the future in that way, right? Because it keeps the story from becoming stale. Because I mean, if it's all just meant to be, it's like, okay, just show us that part then, right?
Yeah.
You're never gonna get anxious about the main characters. Or
it's
anything
impossible,
like that.
right? Yeah, but if the threads of fate can be severed and we have to reload, I mean, that does add a lot of tension, even if there is a foretold right, quote unquote, right way for things to end,
Yeah.
And I like the ambiguity of this adaptation take on the prophecy and the concept of manufactured faith like that. The first one doesn't really touch on it that much. It just it just kind of tells you, hey, there's these like witches that can see the future kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, watch out for them.
Yeah. Just be wary of them.
Yeah, exactly. Keep an eye on them. And then it's like, oh yeah, and his mom's one of them. Well, so a little wrinkle there too. Yeah. And she's been like teaching him how to use the Thum the entire time.
Yeah, they really hammer in the other adaptations as well, how important it was for Paul to be brought up in that way. It is one of the components of the prophecy, essentially.
Yeah, they do a lot of lip service to it at the beginning, but it's not. Yeah, but with content that's this old at this point, it's like you really have to pick where it is that you want to like point and be like, this is important. This is important.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're gonna have people walking in who are like 50 years old who have watched every Dune right when it came out, right? And it's like, wow, me, with this situation, it's like how do you get those people? I mean, and also a person who literally just walked in, never saw anything like me, just yesterday, and get them to a pretty good equilibrium in terms of it. And I think that they were smart to be light at the front and then get heavy as the movie got in deeper, because I didn't have the enough emotional investment to give too much of a crap about too much lore at the beginning. Regardless of how cool or seminal the piece is, and what I mean, how unbelievably timeless the concept is. It's like, if it doesn't grab me right now, it's like it's just gonna have one more detractor out in the world.
True.
Yeah, but I had the good fortune of watching this on Hulu, so I could pause it and come back, and I was really interested in seeing when the half point in the movie was, and it was right at that point where he has that really cool dream where he goes into where he sees part 2 essentially, and he watches, the them fighting the Harkonnens, and I was like, all right, that's a really good place to like pivot the movie on this way, because now he has a lodestar essentially to get to. He's like, that was a cool like, I like that that dream, let's try to do that thing right there. They though I thought that was really, really great. And I liked the fact that in the second one, to intersplice in between those two, when they actually got to the reality of that moment and that fight happened, it was actually Johnny who was the one who was doing all of the cool fights and all the moves, and then at the end, they still on her face, just like they did just like how in the dream it was his face that he saw. That was an aspect of that was a through line of the entire of this adaptation that I really loved, was the fact that the future dreams that he sees are never literal. They're symbolic. He has to go through and still live the present in order to be able to interpret what it means for Jamis to be his friend, even though he has to kill him. And and watching that dream, and what it actually leads to. Yeah, I thought that was really, really wonderful, because it isn't just we're just pay off 100% 1-to-1. So here's a question, because I read a tiny bit about the wider lore of Dune, and how they're supposedly there was an AI war before all of this happened, and because of that, people don't have computers, right? And it's people have to be computers, right? And it's that's what those that's what that one general guy was, right? When he would roll his eyes backward, and he would do quick processing inside of his brain, in terms of calculations and things like that.
Yeah. So this is something that they don't touch on at all
whatsoever.
in the new iteration.
Whatsoever.
Yeah. They're called mentats, and they're usually in high places of power. The Baron Harkonnen has one that we see in Dune 1.
Right,
we don't
that
see
big tall guy.
Yeah, he's got another. He gets another mentat after that one dies, but we never see him again. It's a very interesting thing. They so the mentats are, as you say, basically human computers, and the way that they're able to do that is by drinking a spice liquid. And in Lynch's version, the way that they visualize this is exactly the way it's portrayed in the book, is that their lips are stained red from drinking the spice juice. In the new iteration, they pay homage to this idea a little bit with the red line down the center of their lip. An artistic choice that Villeneuve decided to do, which is fine.
They drink it with a straw.
Yeah, just a straw. Yeah.
And the straw's also laced with spice.
Yeah.
But yeah, good call out. They don't spend any time on the mentats at all in these movies, which is fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they're there, and they certainly pay homage to the idea and to keep it active, because especially in number 2 here, where they're showing the Harkonnen HQ and the continual updating of their the northern hemisphere spice flowing and stuff, and yeah, it's those guys just chanting at each other essentially while computing everything that's occurring in the yeah. See, those are the kind of things where I'm sort of happy that they didn't bother to really get into it too much, because that's a whole other movie in and of itself.
Yeah.
Really, it's like having to get into the concept of it's 20,000 years in the future, and with sandwiched somewhere along that line, we had to like kind of fight robots for a while. So like we can't use computers.
That's really
They'll come
interesting.
back.
I didn't know that point of the story, that there was an AI war a long time ago. I had no idea. That must come in some later books or something.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Well, and if that's the case, great. I'm glad to hear. I mean, like mentats were still a thing though in the original Dune book.
Yeah.
Interesting. How did they go about justifying that as opposed to a computer?
I don't know. I think that they're mostly used as like bodyguards, because they're so smart, because they're able to calculate everything so clearly that they're
having a human element, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a whole lot that they don't really get into, which I don't know if the film suffers for it. I think it does a little bit for longtime fans. There's a whole aspect of this story that they don't really touch on at all, and it's kind of a missed opportunity in my mind. The reason that everybody is focused on Arrakis is because that's the only place in the universe that spice is found, and spice is so vastly important. They drop one line about this in the first movie. It's how the Space Guild navigators bend space. Without spice, there is no space travel.
Yeah, it's just a MacGuffin in this one, unfortunately. Like you can certainly understand the importance of it, and you can see how it affects Paul. Right? Like when he comes into direct contact with the spice, but as we're going to literally throw tons of manpower in order to be able to keep this situation going, they don't really hammer in the point,
Right.
In the first one,
Right.
right? Because at least in the second one, you can start seeing how you like all of the extra like qualities that it can like bring when you're actually with the Fremen who take it regularly.
Yeah, it explains why the Emperor sets foot on the planet in the first place. He wouldn't be there. He wouldn't even be in orbit if it weren't for the fact that the spice is that vital to the flourishing of everybody.
So how did humanity get to Dune if you need the spice to travel through space?
I don't know the answer to this. I think there is an answer, a lore answer. Might be worth it to look it up. But
yeah, because it's like it just seems like a chicken or the egg kind of situation at a certain point.
Yeah,
especially because it's like the Fremen are humanoid in their way. So it's like, are they native to Dune, like in that like there's multiple like humanoids out there, that don't all originate from Earth, right? Because it's like at this point we know for a fact that there are multiple types of human, right, who live on different planets. And it's like, does the Emperor live on Earth? Where does he live?
I don't think he lives on a different planet. I'm not even sure if Earth is a part of the universe. Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah.
My Dune nerd.
Wait, because it's like the way that they log, right? They're like, it's 10 19, 19.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, but relative to who? 10,000 years from who? You know what I mean? It's like
from Gregory, right? Gregorian calendar guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Guess so.
I wanted to, just because we're already sort of in the meat of this, like.
Oh, wait. Oh, I do have a question.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Do you think that the reason why this adaptation doesn't go into that is because it's like they chose the more young adult coming of age angle of the story,
Yeah, I think.
And do the other adaptations take that angle too?
Yeah, in kind of funny way, because. Okay, so you guys know Kyle MacLachlan, I think is his name. He's one of David Lynch's favorite actors. He's
in the 80s?
Yeah. I don't know if you can picture the guy, but they tried to make him 15 years old at the beginning of the movie and then slowly age, even though he doesn't. I think Chalamet was a good pick. The other iteration, the sci-fi version, it's the pretty boy dude from Starship Troopers. He plays Paul. I don't know if you can picture the guy.
The guy who's like the protagonist of Starship Troopers?
Of Starship Troopers, yeah. Same thing, not a great 15-year-old, pretty good adult. So yeah, I think the fact that they had, and honestly, this is another thing, I don't know why Zendaya is so popular. She's fine, but I think Chalamet was a big pull to to put the art in that direction, keep it more focused on like the Campbellian aspects, the, you know, the prophecy fulfillment, like, which is cool. Like those are really cool aspects of the story, and I'm glad they went into it. But there's so much on the cutting room floor that I wanted to use what little bit of nerd knowledge I have of the Dune universe, offer up this opportunity for you guys to ask any other questions that just are left hanging in the air after watching the two films.
How does the baby know so much? You know?
Yes, Paul's baby sister.
Well, I guess I can kind of half answer it myself and tell me if I'm in the right direction. Did she also get to see the past when she drank the juice?
Yep. So she also imbibed the waters of life.
I got it. So she's like lived multiple lives inside of the womb at this point, kind of thing.
She's basically a full grown adult in a baby, which is another interesting thing. In the Lynchian version, and I believe in the book as well, Paul's baby sister is born during the course of Dune, during the course of the story. And she is actually really weird. She's basically like Paul and his mother, demigod, right? She's consumed the waters of life. She's developed these powers. I think she already knows how to use the voice as soon as she's out of the womb.
Yeah. I mean, they showcase in this movie the fact that in part 2, the mother is like, when she does the voice, she's like doing it double time. You know, like you can obviously tell that it's the fetus and the mother at the same time using the voice together, which is like why it seems like it's far more powerful and like Paul level, you know, when they do it. Yeah, that was a really cool touch. Yeah, I mean, there certainly feels like they're totally angling to make a third one.
Yeah.
You know, and is it always only ever take less than 9 months? No, you're saying that in other iterations it takes years
For
the culmination of the story. Because in this one it took like 6 months, 7 months from them landing on the planet to them handling business. It pretty much only took like 6-7 months because the baby's not even born yet, and she landed on the planet pretty much pregnant.
Yeah, the timeline very roughly, Paul's about 15 when they're on Caladan. By the time they make it to Arrakis, this is a couple months later, so I think he's like 16, 17. And by the time the end of the novel, Paul's sister is like 5 or 6 years old. So
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Is she a super genius?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's essentially a demigod, just like her mom.
Why can Jessica speak to the unborn? Is that a normal Bene Gesserit thing?
No, this is another thing that they totally missed out on because it's really interesting.
I didn't even get a hint. I don't feel like
a hint on why she was able to talk to her.
Yeah, because at first I was like, oh, she's insane. You know?
Much in the same way that Paul is this exception to all these known rules about how men can't drink the waters of life. Men are not supposed to be able to use the voice or even be trained in the ways of the Bene Gesserit. It's complete heresy to do so. All though in the service of trying to create the Kwisatz Haderach, which is a male. So it's this taboo thing. Paul's little sister is like this. She is this weird anomaly that wasn't supposed to happen. And because of it is like a new thing to even the people in the universe itself. Nobody really knows why she is like that. All we can really infer is that there was something crazy that happened when she also drank the waters of life because she was in the womb. It's kind of like how Gohan is more powerful because he's half a Saiyan. You know what I mean? It's not really ever explained, but you just sort of take it at face value and it becomes part of the universe.
Okay. No, I mean, I don't know. When she drank the water and the baby is like, that's another thing. It's like they kind of fuck with like your conception of like how long the fetus is inside, like, you know, in her, because it's like they show it at like the very, very, very basic level, you know what I mean? And then like a couple days to a couple weeks later, you know what I mean? It's like has like full, you know, like open eyes, blue eyes situation. It's like it kind of messed with my ability to be able to tell time, but it's like the movie already kind of is already bothering to do that, because I was so confused at the very beginning of part 2, and as I was like, has it been like?
No, it's immediate.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, and then they like look over to the side and like his body's still there, and I was
yeah.
like, oh, okay. But then that made even
yeah. So they scrunched that down.
that made
in this
even less
version.
sense. I was like, I'm pretty sure that there wasn't lips at first. Also, they had already seen a sandworm rider at the very, so it's like, where are we?
Yeah. What are you thinking?
I have another question about the.
Yeah.
There was one line that threw me off that I think was said by Jessica. I think she said that the Kwisatz Haderach would be born in the desert, and it made me wonder if Paul's sister is supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach, or why that was said, because it was already established that we were seeing Paul as that, and they already knew at that point that the baby was going to be a girl. Did you catch that?
Did I catch them maybe referring to her as the Kwisatz Haderach?
Yeah, but like in a weird tangential way.
I don't think anybody first that the baby would be it, but I totally had the exact same feeling of being like, oh, the fact that, well, Paul doesn't want to be the Messiah, and the baby is already like, no, you should do it, I'm
gonna have
like,
to look at it.
lean into that.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
And if
There was a
the
line.
baby can also see Quasi into the future, I can only imagine she's doing some
Planning herself.
some planning of her own, being like, no, you set the stage and then I'm going to be the Messiah, especially because we already have that nice sweet line of they have to be born, in the desert, and being like my brother led the way, love him for it.
He's a great dude.
Yeah, exactly. He'll always have a place in my cabinet, but come on, let's be real here.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this really fun scene, even though the Lynchian version fails in a lot of places. There's a really fun scene at the end where little baby Paul's sister, and I can't think of her name right now, but she's like 5 or 6, and I think she stabs the Baron Harkonnen like as a little surprise attack, and she's like, ha 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 ha. Just like a little Chucky doll.
What the fuck?
It's great. I don't know why they didn't. I think.
And is that true to the
book?
To the book?
Yeah. As far as I remember it, it's been a year or two since I read it. Yeah, she's a little bit, and she's like freaking everybody out because she, like Paul was doing near the end of the movie when he's like, your grandma, like, she died this time. His little sister is like that too. And she's like talking to the Baron. She's like, my brother's going to kill you. Ha 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 ha. Like this little 5-year-old girl. It's fantastic.
I think it would have made me take this less seriously.
Far less seriously.
Yeah.
Great choice keeping the baby in the womb.
Despite how it messes with the timeline, sure.
Yeah,
Lethal
for
Introspection crew approves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some adaptational ironing of the wrinkles certainly didn't go amiss there for sure. Yeah, this movie had no place for a child. It really, really didn't. I mean, young adult was the best position to apply themselves in. So yeah, back to the sequence of the movie. They land on Arrakis, and literally 10 hours later, they all get murdered, right? Because that one doctor turned off. I wonder how big the switch is to turn off all of the
shield.
Yeah, to turn off both the shields and all of the defense systems. I hope he really had to real like Luigi's Mansion type of thing, Because I mean,
shoots it with a plumber.
Yeah. From me wife. Because I mean, talk about a suspension of disbelief that this transplanetary empire only has one switch for their very, very important planet-wide defense thing for their main city.
For their city, yeah.
Yeah, it was funny to say the least watching that part.
Well, I mean, you did say the Harkonnen seemed a little, I don't know, bumbling, I think is the word that you said it. And that was their house before they moved in.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's like a show. Maybe that's like a quiet showcasing of their like arrogance, where they're like, we're all firepower, no defense, because who the fuck would mess with us? Yeah. I could see that. I also read this one thing, just like real trivia shit, how in the original adaptation, those palm trees actually belong to the Harkonnen, and they're like, we put those up to show everybody that we got so much water that we don't even give a fuck to the
Yeah.
point that we'll keep these guys alive, And then in this one, they're like, no, they belong to the Fremen, and they would waste water on trees like this,
Yeah.
like when in like about 3 hours from now, they're going to tell us that they wouldn't even drink the water that they're taking out of their dead in order to be able to maintain their own civilization.
Right. It does tie together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the hubris of the Harkonnens is what ends up taking them down, which I think is good. It's on point. It's on theme. That whole exchange with the Baron and the Emperor near the end goes on a little bit longer in other versions. But yeah, the Baron, there's nobody that lives on the south side of the planet. It's inhabitable. And he truly believes that. He truly thinks that's the case, which is why he died.
Yeah. Seriously, that was one of the biggest issues. Just, the fact that they were the main bad. It was very, very difficult to take seriously, especially because the movie doesn't ever tell you how many other houses there are and doesn't ever apply another house aside from those, like one mercenary house, you know what I mean? Like as the Emperor's guard.
Sardaukar.
Yeah, it's like I cannot believe that there isn't another house out there who has smart people actively looking into this, with spies inside of both houses actively feeding them information, telling them, hey, these people are fucking up. You know what I mean? It's
It's the Bene Gesserit
what?
doing that. They
Pulling
just
the
don't.
strings.
Well, they have spies everywhere.
No, see, but the
gathering
Bene
information.
Gesserit are in and of themselves a separate organization, right? I'm saying like houses having spies inside of other houses where they were like, where they would be able to be told all of this way ahead of time. Like there wouldn't be a need for Paul to be the one to have to come all the way around and tell all the other houses, hey, like the Emperor tried to have me killed. Like all of the spies of all of the other houses should have like fled the moment they could have, because they weren't going to care for an Atreides like estate, but they would want to care to go tell their their own benefactors about it. And it's like, how is it possible that no other house got wind of the fact that it wasn't just house on house, a house on house thing?
I think part of that reason is what you said just a little bit ago. 10 hours later, House Atreides fell.
Oh, wait. I actually think I have a means of being able to self-salve here, because they tell you that the Sarkonnen, what is the name of the
Sardaukar,
right? Those are like the Empire's army situation, right? They're like houseless, or they're a house who works for, like, that's another thing I don't understand. It's like, because it's like like I know that the Harkonnen provided the Sardaukar with like their armor and stuff to make it look like it was like the Harkonnen attacking them. But then Duncan's like, it's the Sarkonnen, because like I can tell, because like you're fighting them, and they're like, no, like these guys aren't, like they're not dropping as easily, essentially,
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess in that way, I can kind of see how it makes sense, because everybody knows that House Harkonnen just came through and killed House Atreides, right? Because I mean, how it's been like 6 months, right? By the end of part 2.
Oh, you mean word traveling? Yeah, because my thinking originally was like, I don't know that there would necessarily be like cross house spies all over the place, because I feel like they set the tone at the beginning that this kind of thing is rare. Like all the houses like roll up to the Empire. But yeah, if their communication systems are as fast as they're made out to be in the second movie, I guess I'm a little surprised word didn't get out on that with how many people seem to know about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are the kind of lingering questions where I'm like, is it an issue in the story as a base because it was never answered, or is it an adaptational issue where where they chose to chop this answer off because there wasn't literally enough time to like slot it in?
Well, if all of House Atreides, which pretty much all of it is either dead or enslaved. Yeah, I guess the only gap in that was what's his name? Gurney?
Yeah.
Because he was a smuggler. But I don't know if he knew that he should know if Duncan knew, because he's a fighter.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you would imagine that he would be out there trying to call up other loyal other loyal knights of other houses being like, hey, listen, like we got ran up on by the emperor's people.
Yeah.
It's like,
Because why would they tolerate it from the Harkonnen either?
no, exactly. It's like, it's not like they're beloved or anything like that. Like, it's obviously, yeah, it's very obvious that they just happen to be the people who made the money first. Yeah. So that's a question I was gonna ask you is like, does any other adaptation add another house, or is it always just these? Is it always just this amount of houses in Dune 1 and
There are more. Yeah. There is, I don't remember them by name, the other great houses, but they're referred to in a general sense as the Landsrad, which I think that word is mentioned once in the second movie. And that's sort of like the UN of the Dune universe. So like basically a high council of different ambassadors from different high houses that do the sort of high level legal stuff. But this all falls under the branch of the Imperium, of controlled at the very top by the Emperor.
Right.
So yeah. And there are like Gurney, as he says in the movie, goes out and he's like just doing random shit, like smuggler shit for a while in the book. I think part of the thing is that the story known to the other great houses in the Landsrad is that House Harkonnen took care of House Atreides, wiped them out, and there's not much anything anybody can do about it. Nobody suspects that it was under the Emperor's direction to do so.
Yeah, but why would they all allow House Harkonnen to just wipe out an entire house and move on with their lives?
I think part of it is because of Paul's dad, and this is sort of alluded to in the film. I forget who says it, but it said Leto, as I've heard it in every other version. Duke Leto is a principled man. He's not one that could be easily swayed by the Emperor as like the Baron.
The Emperor said it.
Yeah, he led with his heart, and there's no room for people that lead with their heart in the Imperium. The Emperor wouldn't be able to use him in the way that he could use.
There's still like a natural balance struck though. If I'm a different house and I'm under the impression that one house overnight swooped in and wiped out another one, when the Emperor switched out the houses that were on the planet, that was his decision, and then one wipes out the other, and then they're allowed to stay on that planet, I would make a fuss about it.
Yeah.
I would have a problem.
Would you though, if you're still getting your spice shipments in on time?
I would want to know that my position was secure. Is like, then, there's just this little bit of like, what if the Harkonnen want my planet? Not that it's necessarily valuable, but all planets have resources.
None have the spice.
Did I say this? The resources.
Yeah, because Caladan's still a thing,
resources.
right? It's like they didn't go and blow up Caladan.
Yeah.
Like,
But if you blow up the bloodline, you get rid of the
then
house.
the dragon appears. And it's back to turmoil and cyclones in Caladan.
Another AI war or something.
I will say, I like about this movie, this story, that there's not one big, scary, clear bad guy. I like how complicated it is, because with politics, it always is. It's always more than one thing going on, and some of it's visible to you and some of it's not. And I think that's kind of unique about this story. I think a lot of stories do the like one big bad guy situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like this movie kind of plays in both ends, right? Because I mean, they try to make the Baron seem like that, but then at the end, he's just like, income, my boy, income. All right, you bring those numbers up. All right.
Seriously.
All I care about.
Yeah. And it's like, that dude must be stupid, because it's like he did the complete opposite of what his uncle just told him to go do. He's just like, no, don't go rile the natives. It's like, no, like go work on the spice fields. Like, that's what we need. It's like, we already secured the planet as best we know how to do, since the South is uninhabitable. It's like, yeah, it just added to like the bumblingness of the Harkonnens in that way to me. Again, it's like, how is it that these guys are the ones that are like being taken so like to be the main antagonistic house,
I think it's in large part due to just them being vicious. Fade Ratha is a really good representation of how the Harkonnens see their place in the universe. They're sort of the strongmen.
Stupid can still be scary if it's vicious.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like there's another thing that I'm like a little confused about them as a people, right? Because it's like they look like they're clones, you know? Like, and I mean that would almost be like the ultimate desire of like a megalomaniac like the Baron, right? It's like everybody is the same, so I know exactly how malleable they all are, you know? And on top of that, they're all part of me, you know, because maybe they're using the Harkonnen bloodline as like a baseline for a populist kind of thing, because that's what they look like. Nobody has hair, and it's like everybody's got like the same kind of like brow situation happening, you know.
I think that's just the no eyebrows situation.
The no eyebrows
that
situation.
like ties into the no hair thing. Also, it's a little insensitive for you to say all the Harkonnens the same.
Well,
I thought
I'll take it.
It was so beautifully represented in the movie. That whole section on Giddy Prime, the fireworks, those cool ass inverse
Like
ink blot,
sludge fireworks.
yeah, and the black sun. Oh, so cool! Like if these movies have anything going for them, for those who aren't interested in like political high fantasy sci-fi, it's how visually stunning almost every scene is. Everything is just gorgeous, and what a cool way to really get across how different a place the Harkonnens come from than showing it in that way.
Also, they're all killing each other all the time. Just in day-to-day activities, they kill each other.
Just for funsies.
Which makes me think that they're clones. See, that's another aspect that really like
Make a new
brought
one.
yeah, exactly. That brought me to the idea that they're clones, because a lot of them do look alike, especially of like the same kind of like job type, you know, like if you're like a mentat or whatever, or you know, like you're always like about yay tall, you know what I mean? And so you're like easy to like like have your throat swiped essentially. The two ladies who are like bathing or like refilling like the sludge for the Baron, they look like clones, you know, like so many of the, I mean, but yeah, again, I don't know if that's just like you guys said, just an effect of not having eyebrows and not having any hair. You know what I mean? Like how much would we all look alike if we all just
Yeah, I think I depend on hair a lot.
yeah, right. For differentiation. Yeah, totally. You're totally right. And I will 100% add to the fact that in part two, the representation of the planets that the Giddy Prime was really, really important, especially having that night and day cycle situation happen, because like if like that effect of having everybody turn like pale white is like a natural effect of like this eclipse that's going on, you know, I can totally see how that would mess with, or like, you know, or at least paint your perception to a certain degree, where it's like we can't see colors, like all we can see is like black and white for like hours at a time, who knows for how long, you know. And it's like, can you even see blood in that way, you know what I mean? Like would blood just come out black like that? Because it's like he's like, it's not like they're naturally like pale like they are in Mad Max, you know. Like that was just a genuine effect of that day of the black sun eclipse or whatever was happening. Which what was that? Was that like one of the moons cracked and then eclipsing in front of the sun, making it look like that? Like that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
It looked really cool, but they only showed it for like a half a second.
Yeah.
Maybe Harkonnens are colorblind. Perspective. I don't know. I liked the effect. I didn't understand why, but I liked it.
Yeah. Right.
You know, same here. I don't really get it. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing about movies and as a whole, right? It's like, okay, like millions of dollars have to be dropped onto this, you know, and somebody had to have some directorial vision at some point or another, you know, for me to be able to get the chance to see this, right? It's like, obviously, unless I watch some sort of like a tell-all commentary, you know, the best we can do is like, you know, try to make educational inferences, especially when they don't, fortunately, you know, dump you with this is why it's all black and white right now.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would ruin it. Does the book explain what the Baron bathes in?
I think it's some kind of healing liquid.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would have been cool if they would have made it be like it's spice. It's spice based. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like they would have added like some urgency to being like, oh, the Baron really needs a spice right now. So it's like, well, you really got to drop all of these things down. You know what I mean? Like something along those lines. But
There's some kind of optical illusion a little bit that I get with that scene too. With like, especially early watching the first movie and seeing the Baron kind of as some sort of like balloonish, like floating monster situation. The bath from its length up to the floor doesn't look like it recedes into the floor, but it also doesn't look deep enough for him to submerge himself. So like for the first part of this movie, twice in a row, I've been like, does he like liquefy a little bit in there? Like turns into sludge or something. And then it like made sense in my brain with it being a healing thing because they said he was healing in there. But
yeah, is that whole shield technology OC as well? Is that?
Yeah, and they really don't spend a lot of time with it, explaining like what it is and how it works, and why you can't use shields in the desert.
Yeah, that's another. That's oh my gosh, that was something. I was like, you shouldn't have never said that line because I was like, now I'm only gonna ever think about it. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it really, really bothered me because they were so pick and choosy as to when that actually like worked. Yeah, as like an actual issue.
Yeah. So the shields are like these like high vibration sort of force fields.
Right.
So the reason that you can't use them in the desert is because it drives the worms crazy. And they'll destroy whatever has that hum.
Yeah, kill frenzy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a vibrational thing.
They do mention that part. Yeah.
And the reason that people wear them is because everything is close quarters combat for the most part. And
Why?
I don't.
Is it just to add to the medieval sci-fi effect?
That's
to
my
it?
guess.
Yeah. It's like they're all pretty much just essentially Game of Thronesing it.
Yeah.
But in space.
Yeah, as like techie as you can get Game of Thrones. Yeah. The way that they work is they don't allow fast moving things to pass through them. That's why I think there's one little line in the beginning of the first film when he's training with Gurney. Is it Duncan? Gurney.
it's Gurney.
Gurney. It's some line about how it's the slow blade that kills.
Yeah.
That's how you get through the shield with a very slowly. Because if you go fast, it just bounces right out.
Yeah, no, that was all very cool. I was always wondering if that was it or not.
So like a bigger question too is like, because this might be a dumb question, but I don't feel completely straight on it. And maybe the definition doesn't matter. Is Paul actually some kind of Messiah? Or is it like a series of events that someone foresaw and that's just kind of made him a Messiah by title and the things that are happening we're just going to have?
Yeah, it's essentially both is the answer. That's why the Bene Gesserits say, if Paul is dead, we have other ways of getting to the Kwisatz, of fulfilling the plans that we are trying to fulfill.
Right. The narrative was already there. It just needs willing actors to be able to play the part all the way through it because the people will do the rest, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's essentially the shitty part that Paul foresaw is the fact that the moment he sets foot in the South, it's too late. Like people are going to look at him and they're going to go off on their own thing. It's like he can literally just die right there. But the moment that they see him on that side, it's all over at that point.
Does he want to marry the emperor's daughter because he wants to be the emperor? Or is it it's one of the pieces of the only reality in which all the people he cares about live?
Yeah, mostly the latter.
Okay. That's what it seemed like. I just wanted to make sure because he got real feisty at the end, but it seems strategic.
Princess Irulan, which is a name that they never say in the movies.
Yeah, the first time I saw it was when I looked up the cast list.
Yeah. Every chapter.
Make her look like Princess Zelda.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Yeah, every chapter in the book is preambled by a diary entry from Princess Irulan, who reads it in her own voice. But yeah, part of it has to do with, as you say, that's the slim path that he can see where people survive.
Right.
And another part of it is getting power back into House Atreides, reclaiming the title of Duke.
I mean, it seemed really well done in part 2, seeing the realization of all of that, because it only ever happened after he got the the extra far sight, essentially, of having drank the waters of life. Because prior to that, he never was like, oh, I'm gonna marry the,
He wouldn't even say he was
yeah.
the Messiah.
Yeah, exactly. And now that he's seen the past, future, and present at the same time, he's like, well, nothing I can do about it.
Yep. It's like what his dad said at the beginning when he said, great men don't want to be leaders or something like that. And he said they're called to it and they answer. And that seems like that for Paul is really coming to fruition.
Yeah.
By the end.
They managed to be able to lock the beginning and the end really, really well.
Yeah, really well.
Yeah. Well, we sort of skipped around a lot.
I mean, I'm not done. Yeah, not by a long shot. Because we're just at the point where they get betrayed. The house falls, right?
That's the beginning of the movie.
Huh?
Buckle up,
part
folks. 6 hours more.
Well, no, we're almost at the end of part 1, right? Because the Sarkinen or whatever, Sardukar. They attack under the guise of the Harkonnen, right? And then that doctor has a change of heart, or he's playing 4D chess in some really dumb way, because oh my god, that was another just massive eye roller in the first one, being like,
I like it.
you liked the fact that he got betrayed like that by the Baron?
No, I don't like.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, I think he should have expected that would be the way that would play out, but I like that he like double played him, where of course he still wants the Baron dead. He's been tormenting his wife,
right?
Where he's like, I'm gonna do what I can to get my wife back, but I'm also gonna give you the tools to kill that guy. Right. I like that. Seemed very like not human, but like human,
principled.
Yeah, I guess in his way. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would have been cool if it would have been just a larger plot. You know what I mean? It's like, because as it stands, right? It's like House Atreides as a whole just doesn't have enough pockmarks to it to be like, oh, like obviously everybody wants these guys dead. You know what I mean? And like nobody would lift a finger to think about the concept of their demise. You know what I mean? It would have been cool if even if they had been a light inference of the fact that there was already like the seeds of like discontent inside of the house, and like it was a small like, group of people who like, who did that, like maybe, House Atreides even like, had a lot of slave labor back in the day, you know what I mean? Still some of that left over, but better treated. And then, that like, no, people never forget, like something along that degree, you know what I mean?
Meteor.
Yeah, exactly. Just because, the Harkonnen are so bad, you know what I mean, that it just doesn't balance out to how much people were indifferent to, them winning, like, that hard.
Yeah.
Like it was, it just felt jarring in the seeing that in the first one. Although I did really, really like the fact that he went out of his way to give him that false ninja tooth.
Yep.
To like, to do that.
It also equals one of my favorite like Harkonnen moments too, is in that scene where Leto attempts to poison the Baron, and the poison spreading around, and all the Harkonnen are like scrambling. The two closest to the door step out and close the door. All Harkonnens are like, all bets are off.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we'll figure out the pecking order after all this situation.
Wait for that gas to clear.
Close the door. Like, just run, dude. Like, why lock your friends in?
No, it's perfect.
Gotta contain it.
They saw nothing. They probably saw nothing but dollar signs in the air. They're like, yes.
Just in the panic of like, what's that?
Captain. Yeah.
I'm gonna become captain. Maybe Baron.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah, maybe it'll be what's his name after all this.
How's Yui from now on? Yeah.
To pause there though, too, for me in the first movie, the two most powerful scenes are that scene, the poison scene, where like we're losing the Duke, and also the first scene with who's like the main Bene Gesserit lady that kind of tortures Paul with the box.
Oh, I don't remember her name, but she's up there in the
main mother.
The main mother. Yeah. Those two scenes in the first movie for me, like, even though I've seen them before, they like have me sweating both times watching them.
Yes. Agreed. 100%. I mean, the movie has a lot of really well made and paced tense moments, especially because there's a lot of lax you know, there are a lot of long, languid scenes, long shots of the desert and stuff like that. So it's nice when they tighten it.
Yeah.
It accordions really, really well, especially for a movie that's 2.5 hours long. You know,
Did you guys, is 2.5 hours too long for the first film? Just right? Too short?
I think it feels a little long, and I don't know why. Usually with really good movies, I'm like, didn't even feel like that much time. For some reason, for this movie, while I enjoy it, I'm aware of how long it is while I'm watching it.
yeah, same. I feel like I feel like maybe we could have used less time in Arcades with their first planet. You know, felt like we spent just a tiny bit too much time there.
Oh, Caladan?
Yeah, in Kaladin. Yeah, I feel like we could have just started in transit to, you know, to Arrakis. Paul watching all those vids because it's really important that he get all this down because we're only a couple days away from this. Literally all of the things that happened on the planet could have happened in a ship with his dad and all of this stuff. All of like the, you know, the poignancy of being like, listen, like being like inside of his imperial ship, being like, listen, like we built all this together, like, you know, like we're, especially considering this is a space movie, you know what I mean? I feel like it would have been much cooler to just be like in transit, more space shots going into, you know, like,
Sure. Yeah, I think part of that is trying to stay true to the source material.
right. I mean, sure. Yeah, like considering I don't know what the source material looks like,
Yeah.
right? It's like, yeah, I feel like the information could have been delivered quicker, especially considering that like we never have any sections with like the emperor himself or anything like that. It's just like we could have moved along just a hair quicker.
It's such a shame that you really, I don't know. I'm not a film director. I'm assuming you have to make some tough calls. here
No,
and
for
there,
sure.
you know?
Especially with something this long.
Yeah. And for such a beloved story too.
Yeah.
Try to get it right. In the novels, what am I at, like 6 or 7 points? The point of view jumps around consistently.
Right.
So at one point you're listening to a conversation on Getty Prime between the Baron and Fade Rotha, and then you move to Princess Irulan talking to her dad. You know, it moves around pretty consistently in the story.
Yeah, for sure. Because I was getting a little fatigue of having Paul's POV so much.
Yep.
You know, because especially because in part one he was very one note about the fact that he's like, I don't accept this. You know, I don't accept the power, and you know, just pretty much just being angsty the entire time.
Yep.
But by the time that the first movie ends and they're going through the desert and he's having more vivid dreams, I remember yesterday being like, all right, I can see how the second one's really gonna impress. Once the Fremen actually appeared and they started being actual characters, the movie once again picked up quite a bit of steam for me, because it had lost a good chunk of it just because I again had that issue of not taking the Harkonnen seriously as, you know, as the bad guys. It's like they'll win this one, but how will they mess it up tomorrow? Pretty much, you know. One thing now that having seen both movies that made me really appreciate the first one is the fact that in the first movie they have that whole scene where their extractor gets eaten by the worms, right? And the guy's like, we've been sabotaged, you know, we've been left with we've been left with all this shitty equipment, and because you don't really have a good frame of reference, you know, they could I kind of took the Fremen lady side of being like, this is just old equipment. It's like, that kind of stuff just happens. The desert just eats it, you know? But then in this one, they showcase like the Harkonnen harvesters, and they're just absolutely gigantic and massive, like slick and clean. And you're like, oh yeah, like these guys were working with nothing essentially.
Yep.
They had been left with nothing to work on.
One is a gift, not a gift.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was really well placed. The end of the first film is essentially the middle of the book, so they timed it out pretty well there.
Oh, quick question. So,
Yeah.
is that when the time skip happens in the book?
There's like 2 or 3 in the book. Yeah, there's like one near the beginning between like during the whole transition of Paul, like training and then eventually coming to Arrakis. There's a time jump. There's another one after they meet all the Fremen and like start to become part of their society. And then there's another one between where the events at the end of the movie start and the them like being engrossed in the Fremen culture. So that's why in the story, if I'm remembering it right, Paul's little sister is already 5 or 6 near the end of the book.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels a little rushed.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, but at the same time, maybe that just adds credence to the whole, fervency of belief kind of situation, where it's like, oh, this guy's just fulfilling all of the prophecies, every single one of them, And yeah, I mean, like to add to Hannah's question, it's like, I mean, if the we keep on wanting to call them Jezebels.
Why?
The Bene Gesserit.
Racist and sexist today, Jose. Not a good look for you.
Yeah, they I mean, somebody had to have seen something, right? I mean, in order for them to be able to pretty much write out the prophecy in such a way that, sure, eventually one of their candidates would be able to come through and like fulfill it, But it's like even way back when, somebody had to have already gleaned this particular future, to guide it in this particular way. Because I can only imagine there's probably multiple prophecies one could make up in that way, right?
Yeah, maybe Paul's is just the one that would be carried out on Arrakis. So that's the one that's told and carried with the Fremen so that they're prepared to accept a Messiah. If so, he comes along. And if not, they keep waiting.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, they don't ever allude to what is it that makes it so Dune is the only planet that makes spice. It's just a given that that's the case, and the whole situation flows around it. But it's like, I mean, if we're talking about an imperium that can transcend stars, I can only hope that they're using the spice to find another planet that also has spice.
That has the spice, yeah.
This
is a huge missed opportunity. The Shai Hulud. This is why they call them makers. This is why they refer to them as maker hooks that they used to ride the worms. I don't remember exactly how it plays out, but the sandworms are an integral part of the creation of spice. Without the worms, there wouldn't be any spice.
Really?
Yep.
I also was wondering about that, because I was like, man, I wonder how smart these worms are, because they're just eating spice all day. Like,
well, also when someone rides them, it seems like they hook on the side and the worm like pivots.
That's exactly what happens.
So they're on top.
Very astute. Yep. Yeah. The way that the worm riding works is by pulling those flaps up. It opens these like airways, which makes it so that the worm doesn't want to dive back in because it'll get like
it'll eat sand.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much holding the worm hostage at that point.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty badass.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they do a good job of showing you the fact that there's like extra little mouths essentially or whatever, like when they like break them up.
Holes. Yeah. Well, it seems like they have a nice symbiotic relationship with the worms too, in that feed them.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons the worms come running so fast with the thumpers is not only because it sounds like feet, but also like they put out thumpers and they have like a pile of bodies, like,
and they're teaching them to like hearken.
Yeah.
Got a taste for man flesh.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like the entire time I like never felt like the Fremen needed anybody's help. It's like this whole like religious prophecy situation really is like what the North people were saying, where it's like it makes the people in the South sit in their hands waiting for somebody else to come by in order for them to get active and do what they literally could have always done.
Yeah.
But they didn't. It's a really cool juxtaposition of the fact that even within the universe itself, nobody's on the same page as to like what's the mover and like the causer and mover at the same time. Because I mean, if you really are seeing into the future, right, it's not like you're lying to people, right, about these prophecy things, but at the same time, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you then, dip your finger into it and be like, we're going to make the person who can fulfill all of these, all of these prophecies that we're seeing.
Why aren't the Fremen the keepers and the arbiters of the spice. No one's more equipped to live on that planet than they are. Are they like non-compliant with the Empire?
Mhm.
They want to. It's like probably because the spice is meaningful to them.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem. Oh, sorry. I mean, just from my perspective, right, as a new viewer, it doesn't seem like they care for the spice all that much. I mean, in the sense that like they're like you can take it. They're like, I mean, like the guy when in the first movie he came in and talked to Leo, right, Leo or whatever. He's like, you guys come, you take your sand, and it's like just don't come in to our side of things, and it's like just don't mess with us, like take your sand or whatever, and then do what you have to do.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't come in being like, oh, the spice is sacred and you shouldn't touch it.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah,
But he
It's
did
a
say
much-
leave too. Like you don't get to stay here harvesting it forever.
I think part of that is like it's a planet, pretty
Right.
big. There's a couple million Fremen on it, but it's an entire planet. Another part of that is the Fremen spice is just a part of their life. They like the way that they use it. This is a good juxtaposition to the way that it's used elsewhere in the Dune universe too.
and in elsewhere with moon sugar.
So yeah, the spacers, the pilots of the Spacing Guild use it to bend space. The Mentats use it to become supercomputers. The Fremen are born in it. In other versions and in the novel, it's part of their food. Like they make food with the spice. It's always been a part of their culture. So they don't use it in the same way that other people do.
But like the Harkonnen get paid, I would think the Fremen would something, and then everyone could stay off a planet, and
But
they
they
can
don't have a
harvest.
space program.
They don't have a messiah. Yeah, they also don't have a space program. That's a really good point.
Why do they need a messiah if, like, in this pretend world, no one's on their planet causing them problems, and they harvest and distribute the spice
They're
on their
told
own?
that they
What does that have to do with distributing the spice?
have no interest in distributing spice.
I'm
Yeah,
saying
they're-
for income. I feel like, this is an experiment.
for
this is like a
money?
pretend world. Yeah. Because the Harkonnen are doing it for money and not very well. If
Well-
the Fremen were paid to distribute the spice, they'd probably do it better than anybody else. And then there wouldn't be a war on the planet inhibiting spice production, and they wouldn't have to be, being
Yeah,
pushed
but they-
around on their own planet.
They would have to want,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really seem like
Or something
any,
in return.
right, but it doesn't
like
seem like any of them want that. It doesn't seem like any of them have an entrepreneurial spirit in that way.
They're also not subject to the emperor. They're not a great house. They're
I'm
not
just
a part
saying
of the
the
Imperium.
benefits from a third party perspective
Mhm.
to get intruders off your planet and potentially get something else in return that would make life for your people easier. I'm surprised it's not even like a thing that gets talked about.
I bet that is a consequence of the fact that the Harkonnen were the first to get there, and as a result of that, they didn't open lines of communication with the Fremen in like egalitarian way, right? So to the emperor, right? Because the missives always come from them to the emperor, right? So
Right.
the narrative that the emperor has on the Fremen is they're rats. They are like, they're these people who are unproductive, and they don't use the spice the way we use the spice, and because of that, they're pretty much just wasting the potential that they're literally sitting on. And as a result of that, we're better off just liquidating them and then having us, your loyal subjects, be the ones to handle
They make the
movement.
money.
Yeah, as opposed to having these barbarians, like even giving them the opportunity to do something like that when they could, the moment they hit the stars, become space pirates or whatever.
That does help because the Fremen hide, right? So there probably hasn't been a dialogue with them at any point. And that's what Leto was going to open up. He went there, was to partner. That makes, okay.
Yeah, because Duncan's was essentially the first group of Imperium-based, like an Imperium-based vanguard that went out with the sole intention of trying to figure out their customs and learning their honor systems and whatever, right? Like that was the big deal from them, right? Because I would imagine that off screen they had to do like some sort of PowerPoint of being like, well, it's like this is gonna be our strategy here, right? It's like we're gonna do sand power.
So cringy. We're gonna do desert power.
Yeah, desert power. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, whatever you say.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite things about them, though, is like how badass the Fremen are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think you said it when we were watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, there's this thing where like you don't fuck with the Fremen, and especially on their home turf. And you see, like, the second movie really brought that to life. I spent a lot of it with like goosebumps, like, yeah.
Them popping
Get
out
'em.
of the sand and shit.
Yeah. Calling worms with their fists.
Yeah. Yeah. So they really hammer in this idea that the Sardaukar are the top tier warriors of the universe. That's why they work for the Emperor. That's why they're mercenaries for the Empire. And this juxtaposition of how good they are versus the quote unquote rats that live in the desert is a really fun thing that the book explores. It makes the Fremen taking down Sardaukar so much more impactful, because you're like, these are the best warriors in the universe, and the Fremen are slicing and dicing.
Yeah, for sure. The guerrilla warfare tactics of it. I wonder how much of that was like a temporary touch of Vietnam War and Vietnam War when Dune was originally, and how that was essentially a new version of warfare. Well, not a new version of warfare, but like the new clash of modern warfare that the United States had available, you know, a la the Zarkodars or whatever, and the fact that, and the unbelievable advantage that being in your home turf gives you, like when fighting, you know, the Vietnamese rebels, in that, you know, it doesn't matter how many M16s you throw at them. It's like, if they know, you know, how to walk the patties and how to stay quiet, they'll get you, you know, like, to the point that you'll have to retreat, like you'll have to leave. Like,
Yep. Yeah,
Like-
that's a really good analogy. Yeah.
I can only imagine it painted, you know, the narrative of what was the name of the original author of the book?
Frank Herbert.
Frank Herbert. There you go. Yeah, it was great. I mean, it really, yeah. The home field advantage is always something incredible, and it was awesome that there was no they didn't shy away from showing how brutal the Fremen were too. It's like they didn't, you know. That's like I was saying earlier. It's like it's a little annoying because of the fact that they show you that they didn't need anybody's help. Like, they had it all in the bag, you know, from the very beginning. But because of religion, essentially, and a very specifically placed religion, like, they pretty much had one hand tied behind their back the whole time.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Tech is the other really big part of it. It's a major sticking point that the Fremen don't have artillery of any kind.
Right.
This is why when they find the nukes, it's such a turning point for them.
I think they must, I mean, they had like, Chani had like a gun that she was shooting down helicopters with, but I have to assume that they've taken them off of Harkonnen over time.
You're correct. Yep. Good.
Because I saw them like bagging up a bunch of grenades and stuff after they killed the one group of them. That's one thing that I thought was really cool, is like, it's like a crime scene. Never happened after they have a fight, you know. It's like, I was surprised in that moment at the beginning of this where the Harkonnen see their footsteps in the sand, because everything they do, they get rid of everything. They pack up what they need, they take the water out of people, and then they feed them to the worms, and they're gone. You'd never know where your men went missing.
Yeah. Another thing I was wondering in part 2, now that part 1 is over, right, is I wonder what the gravity of Arrakis is for them to be able to use those jetpacks so willy-nilly like that, you know?
Yeah.
Because the planet supposedly is cavernous, right? It's like, it's very hollow. So, yeah.
Is that why it makes the thump sound?
Oh, because
ground?
there's empty
Yeah.
underneath the sand. Yeah, there's some, like, they throw out one line in the first movie, drum sand. There's different kinds of sand, and that has to do with what's underneath it and what region of the planet.
Worm tunnels and such.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I would wonder if you'd be able to, like, grab, you know, one of those dune worms, right, when they're babies, like that, only 30 feet long, right, and put them on another planet.
Yeah.
You know, have them become like an invasive species on that planet and see if they can start churning.
To get another spice planet.
Seems like an unfortunate species to have pop up on your planet.
Yeah, Fortunately, only the Fremen know that the worms make spice.
Mm.
Nobody else has any idea.
Also,
where
only the
spice comes
Fremen
from.
seem to know how to transport them,
Yep.
Yep. How to harvest anything from them.
Yep. Yeah, the Fremen hold all that knowledge, and it's unbeknownst to the Imperium writ large.
Right. Yeah, I mean that aspect makes the concept of the Harkonnens be bumbling, or uber evil make a little more sense, because at that point it's like, yeah, like I was saying, like that's the reason why the Empire is so ignorant to them, because they don't allow people to be curious about these other people because they see them as beneath them. So there's nothing that they feel they can learn from them.
Yep.
And they're hard to find too. Like I don't think sending the Harkonnen to the planet helped with like opening up those lines of communication, but like that sets a first impression probably with the Fremen. And that was, I think it was Duncan that said, I wandered around searching for them. They were watching me the whole time and I never saw any of them. It's like, you got to catch them first before you're going to talk to them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, for that guy to only think there was like 50,000 on the whole planet, I mean, like his whole assumptions are totally.
how would you know?
Hubris.
How would you guess? Like, especially with the storms on the south side, not even being able to look that over,
Yep.
you probably just assume there are none there and you move on with your day.
And I mean, wouldn't the Baron have some inkling and understanding of the Bene Gesserit's 4D chess, considering his daughter came from their like a conception with them? You know what I mean? It's like he seems like the kind of guy who would want to be in on the future prophecies. You know what I mean?
The Bene Gesserits are like this. They don't.
Do you
they're-
think that was like the other situation where one of them just went in there and got pregnant to secure a line?
Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, you can try to, but the thing is like they are literal space witches.
Right.
You know, you don't fuck with them, and people know that.
Right.
They can literally tell you what to do, and you will do it through the Thume.
Somewhere out there's Parthenax, all these.
Yeah. The Bene Gesserit live on a mountain when they're not here.
Yeah, so part 2, badass. Really, really dark. Even all of the scenes, it was very cool how much they used the concept of like self-made sandstorms to as a war tactic for the Fremen. And it's just like there's literally no scene with the Harkonnen where they don't make them look so foolish, right? Where it's like they come through and they are the ones that caused the dust storm initially. They're like, well, let's go down on the ground now and just get mauled on.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that dude, he murders his own pilot on the helicopter. And
They're constantly killing each other.
Yeah.
Constantly. I saw so much of Harkonnens killing each other, which seems real stupid too, or arrogant, or
it's
somewhere in the
mostly
middle.
just arrogant, right? And I would imagine that if anything, Paul indirectly mentions that, right? It's like, would you throw away a knife before a battle? Which is essentially all they're doing left and right.
Right.
It's like every single one of those people that they kill has the best interest at heart for the Harkonnen, because they're warning them about potential ways that they're going to lose.
Especially with the Fremen tradition of one leader killing the previous one and taking over. It's like, don't we want lots of good leaders,
Yeah.
not just one at a time?
Yeah, there are a lot of parallels between Paul and actual religious mythology characters. There's in a lot of ways he represents Jesus or Apollonius, just any of these ancient Near Eastern tales. He in the same way that Jesus in the Bible comes to brings a new covenant. That's what Paul is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think of? I want to phrase this question very specifically. Do you think Paul's a good guy?
I think he's all right. I'd have a beer with him. Once he's
You
old
have a
enough.
beer with Paul.
He's just a little tight.
I'm certainly not going. Yeah, I'm not going to corrupt the youth. Do I think he's one of the good ones? Yeah. I mean, he's got good intentions. I mean, he knows what's coming. He's got the very unfortunate characteristic of knowing that at this point things have pretty much gotten out of his hands. And it looks like he's trying to minimize losses.
Yeah, I think to his core, he is a good character and began a good character, but as he becomes more superhuman, kind of in the way that he sees the world and how big picture his view gets, he's going to become too like expanded for us to be able to continue to see him as a good guy, because he's not going to meet good guy by our like little day-to-day interaction standards. But I think it'll still be things that he's doing to achieve good outcomes. It's just longer term, and none of us know, like, no one around him will know what exactly he's working on. And a lot of those interactions, like, he's not going to be able to share that. He's going to have to play it close to his chest. And sometimes he might seem like a really bad character. Even by the end of the movie, he had already become a much less relatable character for me.
Turning into a demigod will do that.
I think that's a missed opportunity. And again, I don't know if it's like a completely missed opportunity for Dune as a whole. But in this adaptation, I dislike the fact that the Emperor already isn't at that position, right? Because you would imagine that him having complete access to spice, that he would try to seek to find, and knowing the fact that these are, qualities that spice can bring about, that he wouldn't actively be seeking to make himself be like this demi-human situation. Like it just seemed so out of place, especially for a person who throughout the entire first movie they allude to him being a power hungry person, or at least a very power conscious person.
Yep.
That he would leave this kind of situation on the table, because even though this adaptation doesn't expand on all of the features that spice has, I mean, they're still there, right? It's not as though anything that the past iterations have informed you of, or already baked into the universe aren't there. So it's like, why isn't it that the Emperor isn't actively doing,
Get the impression that it's the case that spice allows you to see the future.
Correct.
Because Paul kind of he had that long before he was exposed to spice. And like he enhanced it by drinking like the holy water, which nobody else would really know about. And anybody that did pursue it would probably die.
And you don't think the Emperor could persuade the Bene Gesserit to teach him?
To even find out about it in the first place.
Right. Right on. Okay.
But I don't know. It does beg the question, why can Paul see the future?
Even before having drank the waters of life. Yeah.
It's because of his unique birthright and his training. Essentially, I don't remember exactly how it plays out, but the Bene Gesserits aren't supposed to have men because there exists this prophecy of the Kwisatz Haderach, which is a guy.
They call him an abomination.
Yeah. Jessica takes it upon herself to try to fulfill the prophecy. She thinks that she can do it, basically.
Which is also arrogant.
She calls home
because she's a Harkonnen. Oh.
Mm-hmm. It's in the blood.
It's
Look
in
at
the
that.
blood. Yeah, she really becomes creepier and creepier as the movies go.
I thought she was kind of creepy at the beginning, to be honest with you, but it does get worse.
Yep. Yeah, so he's this weird pre-demigod before he even hits Arrakis. He his combat prowess is top notch. Who's trained by Gurney and
real Mary Sue type,
yeah, and he's learning how to use the voice, which is something that men are not supposed to be able to do. So the way that's the spice interacts with Paul is different than it would normal people. As Chani says,
and I take it back because it isn't the spice that lets them do that. It's the worm poison, the waters of life.
The waters of life help you see. Yeah. Yeah. It being inoculated with the spice is when Paul starts to have these separate visions of the future. Like he has dreams at first, right? And then he starts to have like these long drawn out visions. And it's not until he drinks the waters of the life that it becomes clear to him.
Right.
You can separate them from each other.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's this video game called Tyranny on the PC, wherein you pretty much play as the right hand of this evil emperor creature, who has like godlike powers and has the voice essentially in this reality, where they provide prophecies right? And the prophecies always come true. And you, as the right hand person, your job is to make sure that the prophecies are fulfilled. But within the prophecies words, you can play around with what, like, how they'll actually turn out, like who, like which clan will actually get destroyed and which one won't, and stuff like that, all under the pretense that you're evil, you know. And in that story, in this video game, which now I'm thinking like, holy shit, how much was this inspired by Dune? You know, because like in it, like you eventually come across these people who believe that you are the Messiah who is going to bring down the bad guy, you know what I mean? Because you too can slowly but surely in the game will also do the voice in like in your own way. And the game lets you do pretty much the whole like lets you like reject it or like take on the call. And in my playthrough, I took it on right away. I was like, well, if there's gonna be a holy war, I mean, might as well be my banner re-enrolled, because I mean, like the people are clamoring for it, and it's gonna be somebody, you know. And yeah, like the story in that video game plays out exactly how it does in Dune, essentially, wherein like Paul doesn't believe this bullshit, but at the end when he gets to see the future, he's just like, well, I mean, like it's gonna happen no matter what. It's like it's out of my hands at this point, and the best I can do is have my dad's skull be the one that they're, you know, that they actually clamor over. At least he was kind of a good guy, you know. It's like, you know, that's pretty much the best I can do for the future is, you know, try to make it so when the holy war happens, they're doing it under, you know, as good of pretenses as they possibly can.
Yeah, his demeanor and the way he speaks really changes after the waters of life. Before that, he's like, this is nonsense. There is no Messiah. I know that because I know the Bene Gesserit's told you guys, and created this mythos, basically. But afterwards, and God, it's such a bummer. In the other versions, he's much more verbose and like imposing with how he talks. He does it a little bit. I liked the way that he shouts at the Emperor. You know, nobody does that, right? It by the end of the movie and by the end of the book, Paul, I don't think is of this opinion that it's all bullshit anymore. I think he actually is starting to believe that he is the prophet.
I think after he drinks the holy water, he sees how his story fits with everything else. Like he now knows what the Bene Gesserit know and what they've been telling everybody, and the validity of it and what would make it valid versus not. So at that point, even just by definition, he's like, is the Messiah, you know? Because I mean, if it's nothing else, then like this will happen, and then it does. Good enough, right?
I mean, it's out of his hands at this point whether he's the Messiah or not, right? Because just like with any good title, other people call you that. You don't call yourself that.
Yeah.
Like, there's no need, you know what I mean, for those words to ever come out of your mouth, because other people will say them for you.
Right, but the need to deny it goes away, I think, if he understands how he fits in there and understands like if he's lying.
Good point.
Because for me, like I wouldn't stop denying it at any point, especially if I thought I was going to cause a holy war. I wouldn't stop denying it until I felt like I could prevent that, or until I felt like I understood the value of it.
Which is when that only ever happened after the waters of life, because that's when he learned that he can't stop it anymore.
Right.
He fell into pretty much like an equanimity.
Plans within plans.
Yeah, he fell. Yeah, because of the fact that he saw that the future is its own thing. Like, those people are going to do what they're going to do, and it's like,
yeah, that line when Gurney tells him your path leads to war, that would be a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it was very good, because I mean, he could have not done it at any time. I mean, the nice thing about that prophecy is the fact that it was malleable enough. And that's like the most important aspect of a prophecy, right? It's like it has to be just flexible enough that whoever wants to believe in it, you know what I mean, can like slot themselves into it, you know, in their own way.
So we sort of skipped over the meat of the second film. Well, just because there's like only really two big things that happen, right? There's the big attack at the end of the film, and then the rest is...
I'm going to pause you there just to make a really quick point. I realized this last night when we were talking about the first movie. For how long these are, they're not messy. I can describe what happens in both movies in a sentence. And there's something for that.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, the movie really benefits from having had so many adaptions at this point, right? It's like they can they're like, what lane hasn't used yet?
They could look at the old ones and look up like movie reviews of what people liked and didn't like.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
We do that in software. We like look up similar products and read the reviews on them.
Yeah, of
We're
course.
like, okay, let's not make that again.
Yeah, you can't have. Well, this is like I recently read somebody was gonna try to remake The Godfather or whatever, and how we were talking about how untouchable that movie was.
Order.
Dune is one of those. It's like you got to do it right, otherwise it's not going to happen. It's not even going to be made. There's this really cool documentary called I'm gonna butcher the name, Jodorowsky's Dune. I know I'm not saying that last name right, but it's all about another version of Dune that was set to be made that didn't make the cut. But it's a fascinating little doc. Jodorowsky's Dune, I think it's called. Jabberwocky. Anyway, yeah, so we have the really cool, really explosive fight scene at the end of the movie, and then this beautifully choreographed knife fight with Fade Rotha.
Before that, too, just to call out like condensing something big, is like the first part of this movie is basically Paul gaining the trust of and acclimating into the Fremen. I don't know if you've ever seen Dances with Wolves, but it's like an old classic
Avatar
movie.
So you have
thinking of Pocahontas. Kind of the same thing. There are similarities. Dances with Wolves is all about that. It's like a, solitary cowboy character gaining the trust of and integrating into like a Native American group of people that have no reason to trust him. And it's a really beautiful story. It's so well known for a really good reason. It's an excellent old movie that I think holds up extremely well. That happened in Dune, but it's just like a little part of it. And like that, like seeing that and thinking about that was just a reminder that like that's a whole movie of itself and a really good one. Like, how did they get this into something without making it feel crowded? But that was just a really quick call out, is like that's like the first thing that I see happen in this movie. It was done very well.
And number 2 or number 1?
Number 2.
Yeah,
at the beginning.
The first part of number 2 is when he's like integrating in with the Fremen.
Yeah, I had heard before we went and saw this some reviews that the second movie was mid. I heard it described as mid, and I can see how some of these more drawn out, some of like, as you said before, these just shots of the desert and this being ingratiated into the Fremen aren't really action packed. They're not really that exciting on the surface of it.
It's my favorite part.
Right. Yeah. But I could see how some people could come away with that inclination.
I don't know. I mean, it provided really good texture, and it really did add credence to the notion that there are millions of Fremen out there once you actually get to see like the inner workings of their of their little town and stuff. But in speaking about that, I do have to bring up a massive inconsistency that I felt as I was watching number 2, in that once the other general guy, what's his name,
Fade Rotha,
yeah,
right? The Baron's nephew.
Once he takes over, right, he is able to automatically is like figure out that that's the hill that the Fremen live in and start using artillery on them right away.
I struggled with this too.
As opposed to the other guy who was even more psychopathic and wanted, is like, I can't imagine, right, that this is the kind of information that was just laying around. This guy didn't bother to use it, especially because ultimately the first guy was like, he was going so far off the grain of the original main operation, which is make money, make spice, that it was unbelievable to me, right, that it took until this new guy came in for them to start doing that, like
they really gut punch you with it too when the Baron is like, good old fashioned artillery. Genius.
Yeah.
Genius.
Don't embarrass us anymore.
Yeah, stop trying to knife fight them, all right? Shoot them from the air.
Why are you doing that? Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I just needed like a little moment before that when they learned where they live or something like that. They understood that it's a base because it's like they don't show that part.
Yeah.
They just start bombing it. And it's like, if you guys knew that all along, you definitely should have done
It is a
this.
weird thing to just insert the story point in there because there is an explanation as to how the Harkonnens discover where Siege Tabor is.
Okay, how is it? What's
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. God. The director.
I was
probably didn't either.
excited.
Exactly. He's like, what happened again? Just have him shoot it.
Yeah, just have
Yeah.
him see a plume of smoke in the air in the distance.
That's enough.
Yeah, yeah, that was that was something else. I'll say.
Maybe-
I was watching the movie.
Oh, I was thinking maybe it's because that's where they found the body, but nobody found any of those guys. No one would know.
Yeah, and they didn't leave that lady to get roasted until after the fact, right? Because they all jumped in their sandworms and left that place, and then they left that one lady there, right? As the so it wasn't as though she told them, you know what I mean, or anything like that.
Why did that lady get? I mean, I know they said she was a spy, but any particular reason they left her behind?
Man, that's one point against the movie. I guess none of us can even remember why she was there.
I didn't. I wondered in the moment while I was watching the movie, as I was like,
Especially
why would
because-
she still be here, spying on what to tell?
Especially
who?
because
Like,
wasn't she Janny's best friend?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't
They
she
spent a
the
lot of
same
time
lady?
together.
Yeah, like
Yep.
yeah, it was very strange, especially because she didn't. It wasn't like she had like a badass one-liner like against the guy to like tell him something or like explode something on them. You know what I mean?
She
It was
didn't say
just like
anything.
she just sat there, and then we're left with the implication that he's going to burn her alive. Like we don't even like really get to see it. Good bummer.
Good sound design. That was a nice, fun transition. It was as the flamethrower ignited, it turned into the plume of sand in front of the
Oh, I didn't notice that.
worm.
I was like, why were we left with the implication that he was
Yeah.
going to burn her? I missed it. Other than the fact that they torched all those birds.
Oh, those are bats.
They were bats?
Yeah, pretty sure those were all bats.
Oh, I thought they had feathers.
I thought I thought so too. I thought maybe they were messenger birds, and that's why they were.
I
torching
thought
them.
those were all bats because I mean it would make sense that if you're living a cavernous thing, you want something with
Caves would be
echolocation to be able to go from one side to the other very easily. I saw leathery wings. So I mean maybe we have to go.
But they were on like the sides of it. Like I thought there was nests there. Bats would just hang from the ceiling, right?
I don't know. I mean the bat could go in there and then hang inside of there. I mean I don't know. I it's not a point that I would because I
Let's
never
get
saw
to the
birds.
bottom of it.
I never saw birds out in
Yeah.
Arrakis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I never
Yeah, that's a
saw
good point.
any type of bird. So I initially inferred it was like it's all inner cavern like communications that they do with these bats. You know, like they send one bat from one cavern to the next, and that's how they're able to make it so nobody can ever find like their pigeons or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
For them to be able to like, yeah.
Yeah, I think they go into quite a bit more detail in the as far as the fauna that exists on Arrakis.
No, another thing that really bothered me about this movie and the whole series as a was they are so back and forth as to like the lethality of the sun here. You know, because it's like you have Paul, all right, Midwest skin looking boy, you know, walking around the desert. He should literally be boiling, you know, from just 10 minutes of exposure. And he's out there walking with no hat, no nothing, you know what I mean? Just standing there. What are you guys laughing at? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah, they
he
don't
should
go-
have been beat red, like
Yeah.
literally the entire movie.
It's the suit. It's temperature regulatory suit.
But even in his face, though, because I mean, they have to wear the they go out of their way to make sure to wear the mask aspect when they're like deep into it. But it's
Yeah.
like if I can't imagine that the suit would keep the photons from literally destroying your skin, though.
Oh, his beautiful porcelain
his
skin.
beautiful
Yeah.
skin, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's not super important, but it is at least -1 point for the film.
Yeah, I mean, especially because they bring like it's not like they try to have their foot on both sides of the situation, right? Because it's like they show you the Fremen, right, very actively making their little tents, right, so they can sit under them, so they make sure they're not getting hit by the. We're talking about natives, all right, who
Yeah.
for sure should be able to be hanging out outside.
tan
hour.
people too.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. All of them of the appropriate pigment, you know what I mean? to be dealing with the sun as it is. And then we have the guy just fucking just chilling there. It's like, well, I mean, if that doesn't make you believe he's the Messiah, what will? You know what I mean? This guy's just not frying in the sun.
Guy hasn't tanned a bit.
Yeah.
He's been here for months.
Yeah, by the end of the movie, he's no tanner.
But he does have the eyes of a bod.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, but you don't get those from the sun.
Right. You get it from the spice. Yeah. This is kind of a difficult, I think due in large part to how long these movies are and how big this story is. Sort of tricky to get into the meat of everything. Though we have touched on quite a lot. What do you guys, we've been in and out of this as we've gone, but in dealing with the introspection side of the podcast here, Jose, you brought up a really good point earlier that I wanted to touch on again, in that much like Alien and Blade Runner and Godfather, are you going to be more sad going forward, do you think, watching other sci-fis now that you know where all the source material comes from? Does it make it better for you?
No, I mean, it only makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just the issue again of like creative bankruptcy. Like, it just makes it that much more obvious that people are just cribbing so hard and just really, really hoping that people don't watch movies from 15 years in the past and whenever it is that somebody else made a movie. You know, they're just really banking on the hope that people are only watching contemporary movies at any given time, you know, and that you'll only watch the original or the pre-adaption after you've already spent the money to watch this most contemporary of adaptions, you know. I don't know. I mean, at least they're cribbing off something cool, you know, like everything that the aesthetics brings forth. I mean, the way that I had the nod after the movie was done with the Hulu description of it being like this visually stunning space drama. You know, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what part one is, because there wasn't the meat of the story isn't really there. It's like, it's essentially just all the place setting, essentially. Like, they're really setting down the table and being like, and here's the cutlery for what will be this movie that we just watched, which did have a lot of meat on it. And it would have been, I feel, really taxing to have to take on all of the extra words and definitions that they add in on this one so laissez-faire, because we're in Fremen territory now, so we're going to be using these words all the time, you know, as opposed to it being like, you're also a foreigner to this planet, just like, you know, just like the House of Asterides is right now. And slowly but surely you'll also be integrated into the culture. I think the movie did that just well enough. Perhaps it could have been shorter, like you asked before. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to watch it again to find the places where I think that they could, you know, bring it down. Pare it down in that way.
Yeah, this is sort of a fault of the medium, I think. But do you feel encouraged to either read the book now or see the other iterations?
No. I feel encouraged to go look up more lore. I don't know if I have the patience or desire to really want to get into the actual factual narrative aspect of it, especially if what you're telling me is that they're even more dense with the terminologies and stuff like that. What I'm coming to find out is that I really like the broad strokes lore of the situation, you know, like the Imperium and the, you know, all of the, like the voice, you know, all of that stuff, that stuff is really cool. And I would like to learn more about that. I don't know if I would want them to learn more about the characters per se, you know, because much like how the story tells you, it's like, they're kind of interchangeable in that anybody fulfilled this prophecy, right? It's like anybody out of any house could have ended up coming to Arrakis. And if they happen to have some pre-training in the voice, they would have been able to impress the Fremen enough for them to pretty much make them their Messiah in that way, because they were the powerful ones already. The power was in them all along.
The real victory is the journey along I don't know. The real friends are the ones we made along the way.
I'm bummed that the second one didn't have like a cool running like tagline like the first one, you know, where fear is the mind killer, you know, like I thought that was really cool. They did a really smart job of only saying it like twice in the whole movie in the first one, but saying the whole thing,
Yeah, it's pretty strong. What about you? Any inclination to? Are you excited for if they're gonna make another one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited for that too.
Yeah. I don't like, although I might cross paths with it again in the future, I don't feel super inclined to go like dig up the Lynch version and watch that again.
Mhm.
If it came up, if you wanted to watch it, I'd probably be happy about it. But I don't see myself being motivated to go like find it myself right now. Mostly because I think this one is better, you know? Like I feel like I've enjoyed, I don't know, right now for me, the good one. So like don't feel a huge need to go dig up another one that I enjoyed less when I watched it than I did this one. Yeah, I have an interest in the world, but it's also a little bit daunting, you know, of like I'm probably not going to go read the book, but that's mostly cuz I don't read a lot of novels. You know, I try to like learn a lot of like skills if I read a book. And I haven't read a fictional book in a really long time. Uh yeah, I'm interested in the universe and stuff like that, but it's also like just over the last 2 days, I've spent 6 hours in Dune content. Like I'm,
Pretty maxed
and
out.
there's still so much more. Like
Yeah.
I'm good right now. Like I'm refreshed on the
You're
basics.
sated.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
YouTube algorithms are certainly going to be changing for a little bit as I'm looking at more Dune lore.
Dune lore.
I'm not
The
looking for a doctorate. I just like
difference
want the
is-
general gist.
Yeah.
I like the words. I'm glad for what I know right now coming out of it, but I'm not feeling the need to do like a deep dive into Dune universe stuff. But I do find it interesting and wouldn't run from it if it.
I will say, you get a lot of nerd cred if you can spit Sardaukar and Bene Gesserit into your vocabulary, into your everyday speech.
There's something about Dune as like quality sci-fi that even like, you know, I work with a lot of people remotely, and even just one time we pulled on a new contractor onto our team, and he had a bookshelf behind him, and he had the only title that I could read with the distance from the camera was Dune. And I'm not a Dune expert, but I was like, yeah, and it gives him like cred, like right out of the gate.
Yep. Nerd cred.
There's a lot of Dune cred to go around. Yeah, I totally enjoyed it. Yeah, I hope that what I've learned from the movies about the universe sticks with me a little bit better this time. I lost a lot of it after watching the first one as time went by, but
Well, having the culmination really helps.
Mhm.
I told Kimmy that I was really glad that I hadn't watched part one until literally right now when I watched part two, because I might have also forgotten stuff about it because like it doesn't lead to anything in that movie.
Yep.
It's really like again place setting for when the main course is going to come in part two.
that's what I told Matt last night is the first movie. I was like, well, I enjoy this and I had a great time watching it. Maybe that's why it feels a little bit long, is because nothing gets resolved. Like there's no vindication, there's no dopamine at the end of the first movie. It's literally just like they go to Arrakis, they get attacked, go out into the desert. That's the whole movie.
Yep. Yeah, because even when you think that there's going to be some satisfaction, it ends up being that the Baron lived because he jetpacked himself up to the ceiling.
Which was really disappointing. Like seeing that, you're like, oh, that guy died for a couple people died to make this happen, and he's clinging to the ceiling like a bug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus, I gotta say, in part two, if Leto did anything, was it certainly helped to demystify the Baron, having to have those two gigantic like health things have to be behind him all the time as he was like hovering all
Oh, that's
over
like
the place.
the levitation things. That's what keeps him hovering.
Is it? No way, dude, because he didn't have those in part one.
Also, when
He
they
just-
were cut,
He just levitated around like a genuine fucking specter lich in the
Yeah,
first
you're
movie.
right.
He only started having the pew, 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 pew things because those are like his health, the things that are like for his health now that he'd been poisoned by that like damn near lethal thing.
he seemed very out of breath when he got knocked onto the floor,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Because it looks like unless he needs to be out, he's just going to be hanging out inside that pool all of the time. Because like that's the only way he can pretty much exist without having to have those tubes running into him. So they really did do a number on him for sure.
Yeah.
The long garment adds to the creepiness of the floating so well, like that he's like, and then it shrinks down.
Is that always the case? Does
He did in the Lynch.
does the
version.
Baron version look like that? Or like, do they describe him like that in the book?
Very much so. Yeah. Big. He's like more disgusting, I
Yeah.
guess, visually disgusting than Skarsgård is in this version.
Very like bloated
yeah.
looking and like
Yeah. He's got like pustules and boils on his face and stuff like that in the Lynch version. And that's kind of more closely to how he's described in the book.
Did you ever watch the like Monster and Legion gives me a similar like chest feeling as this character in both movies.
Yeah.
Got it. So they sanitize him a little bit in this one, huh?
A little bit. Yeah. But he
Again, he looks more like young adult villain.
Yeah.
It's like very Percy Jackson.
yeah. Stop infantilizing our sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's the woke mafia coming for our favorites.
Yeah, exactly. Coming for our villains.
Yeah. How dare they?
People just can't be evil anymore.
Do we, man? Yeah. Any final thoughts? You
Oh,
guys wanna
yeah.
do
No.
ratings?
Another quick question: does Johnny always leave? Like, is she always like, I don't believe he's the Messiah. I'm gonna go back to be the only real Fremen, essentially.
Yeah. It's very weird the way that this film did that.
Mhm.
They're really close.
Yeah.
Paul describes to Chani exactly why he needs to marry Princess Irulan.
Right.
It's not just like a brief
That would have been a
exchange.
nice touch because like this one was
Yeah.
hard to watch just because she never gets to talk to him
Yeah.
through the whole
Yeah,
transformation.
she's completely
So
understanding.
just know I love you.
I'm about to do something weird.
exactly.
Yeah, her
Lem-
being surprised
Yeah.
in the crowd too. When he,
Yeah.
What? Yeah, no, that's all like pre-talked about and that like Chani understands. And even at the beginning of Messiah, which I've read, they're like Paul is basically married to Irulan in title only.
Yeah, I was like, that's
but he has to
the
provide an heir in those kinds of situations.
Presumably.
Usually,
that's the
doesn't he?
strangest thing about all the situation is you would think that the Fremen being so what's it called, nomadic in their way, right, that they wouldn't have like a culture of like monogamy like that. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Where it's like, you're my partner because I choose for you to be my partner kind of situation. But I couldn't imagine Chani to have like lack an understanding as to how tribal unions happen like that. You know what I mean? It's like, especially for when she comes from a people who would actively kill each other in order to be leaders, in order for the strongest to lead. It's like, and she was 100% okay with that. She was like, yeah, like he's gonna kill you, but you'll die honorably. You know,
Yeah.
it's like he'll make sure you don't suffer. You know, and we'll all remember you really well, outsider.
Well, the Fremen are so isolated though, so like political marriages is probably not really a thing for them
Right.
too.
That's
it's
I guess that's
completely alien
true.
to him.
Yeah. I mean,
Not
you
that
would-
it's that many steps away from what you were describing.
right. Yeah. It's like, listen, I'm trying to do this just to avoid bloodshed. I mean,
Yeah,
you'll still always be my main baby.
in the beginning of
I mean,
Messiah,
I'd still be a little upset. I wouldn't be like,
in the beginning of Messiah, they're like living together as a essentially married couple.
Yeah.
that makes me feel better leaving this movie because
She'd
it
be
was
her
I don't know why they portrayed her as
Done
set
with
up in this
Paul.
way. Yeah, and then like I'm so sick of Paul or
It's
whatever.
a
Like she loves the
cliffhanger.
shit out of him
Yeah.
and vice versa in the source material.
Plus, you'd imagine that she would know, right, that when he says that, when he's already like juiced up, right, that he genuinely means it. Like he no longer has need for duplicity anymore. Like,
Yep. Yeah, it's a very weird creative decision.
I wonder if they're trying to do like some sort of spin-off.
Gosh, don't do that. Don't.
It might be a cliffhanger
touch
for
it.
the
Stop
next
it.
thing to keep people like to have left something unresolved for making another one.
Yeah.
But like it's gonna feel really cheap if we start the third one 4 years down the line and they're living together at the beginning of the movie. It's gonna be like you manipulated me
Yeah.
to get me here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good adaptational wrinkle that they would add for themselves. I mean, I can see why they would choose to do it, especially because Johnny, as portrayed by Zendaya, really showcases to be very independent minded,
Yeah.
being like, I never believed in the prophecy. Like, sure, like as time goes on, I believe more in him. You know, I believe in his intentions and stuff like that. But like, the more he starts drinking the crazy juice, the more like she like, you know,
She just wanted him not to change and to be a fighter with her at the end of the day. Although, like, there is something to be said for, like, how do you make a movie for probably majority, like, modern, I don't want to say, like, Americans, because I'm sure people all over watch Dune, but, like, how do you make a movie for, like, modern people as, like, majority societies are today and, like, pass off this, like, we set up this romance and now he's going to marry somebody else and we're not going to show you any feelings with it, you know? Because like everybody, like as the watchers, we're going to think of our own selves and our own situations
Sure.
and feel sad about it or like hurt about it. So maybe that's like a way to relate. But I would have felt better walking away. I felt like I walked away from the Dune movie feeling unresolved about this thing and bummed out about it. But I also didn't want to be like, I watched Dune part 1 and part 2 and I left sad about a 18-year-old relationship thing. Like I didn't want that, you know. I didn't want to walk away thinking about that from this movie. There's so much to it. Yeah, so I didn't even mention it before. I pretty much let it roll off as soon as I walked out of the theater.
Well, good, because you needn't think on it anymore.
Why leave us with that?
I don't know. It's a pretty strange choice.
yeah, I mean, like the movie does seem to want to go out of its way to rush all of that, right? Like all of the romantic aspect of it seems like they want to go out of their way to be like, no, they like each other. No, don't worry about it. He's proven himself enough that she's got the hots for him now. Don't worry.
Don't worry, she has the hots.
Yeah.
He got her.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, because he was the one that needed to impress. I mean, she didn't give a fuck about him initially, you know? And yeah, I don't know. It left me feeling ambiguous just because the movie wanted to be so both ways about it, being like, it's very important, but at the same time, I guess not really, because once he leaves the planet, I mean, and she stays, you know, like what difference does any of that make, right? And it also I also didn't like the fact that his mom and little sister won in that way, because they were always actively being like, she's just a distraction. Like you're actively allowing your heart to get in the way of obviously the grander machination of you marrying this lady. So we all become royal family.
Is that how that came off?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
That's really unfortunate because it's not like that. Jessica
They
wanted
said
Chani
Oh, hell no.
to marry Paul.
Not in this movie.
No, they said it in
in
the
this movie, they're sitting there, right before she's going to the south.
Yeah, she was like, she said, "You're blinded by love."
And you're like, and she literally said, you're like, yeah. She says, you know, you're distracted right now.
Also, my vibe when Chani had to save Paul, you know, and Jessica was talking her into it, basically. She wasn't giving like a loving vibe, like you're part of the story, when she was like, you're part of the prophecy. From like me not knowing what plays out next, I thought she was supposed to die during that. And she was supposed to basically sacrifice herself for Paul, is the vibe that it gave.
Yeah, didn't she use the voice on her?
Yeah, also, yes.
Yeah, right?
It was a force thing.
Yeah.
It's part of the prophecy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's amazing how prophecies come to fruition when you force people to do stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm confused.
Apply the pressure here.
Yeah. They shouldn't have. That's really unfortunate that you guys got that impression. Maybe I missed that entirely, but
I don't understand what other impression they could have been given.
They didn't only say that he's blinded by love and distracted. They also said you need to reserve your hand for political marriages. They said that to him in the movie. So that leaves zero room for me to have the impression that they want him to marry Chani. Very much the opposite.
Maybe not marry, essentially, but she's like an important key role in the prophecy. So she needs to be there.
Yeah, no, Jessica in this movie does nothing to make it, to even manipulate Johnny in a positive way to be with. It's all their chemistry that brings them together.
Yeah.
And it's like they have a magnetism toward each other, which you could say is prophecy or whatever, right? But it's like it doesn't help Paul the fact that he's already been dreaming about her for a while, right? So it's like,
What do you do?
Yeah, so at that point, it's like, what the fuck? Like, yeah.
It's fate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can the Bene Gesserit like insert dreams into people?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I don't think that'd be Paul or his little sister. I'm so curious about that. I really hope that they do make a third one and continue with the story.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna have to, right? Because I mean they already showed you who the little sister's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did
Props
they
to Anya Taylor-Joy.
How did they get Anya Taylor-Joy to show up
She's
for
the hot
3
shit
minutes?
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but like how much did they pay her for like 5 minutes of her time, do you think?
Not enough.
She's the most.
Not enough.
She's the most alien-looking person that I could
That's so
think
true.
of. So I mean, like, if anybody's got fucking blue blood running through her veins,
Like a quick call out to in my opinion the real hero in this movie as far as like from an actor's lineup perspective. Javier Bardem is my favorite part of this movie as Stilgar. He is the only comic relief and it doesn't feel forced or anything. It's very comfortable. I enjoyed every scene with his character. Serious
Agreed.
and less serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Very cool.
who's surprised? No.
I was pretty surprised to see Walken show up.
Me too.
what a waste!
It's like
What
a
an
nice-
Yeah.
unbelievable waste.
Yeah, they didn't use him at all. It was a very unimportant character in the movie.
Yeah, honestly, it's like they should have just used an unknown to be
Yeah.
the emperor if they were going to use it that sparingly. Because
Yeah.
it's like at that point, it's like I see Walken and I see all the great scenes that could have happened had they bothered to do something with them in the first one. Or were they like undecided as to who the emperor was going to be back in 2019, 2020, 2018 when they,
Yeah.
you know.
We're filming.
I'm also like always pleasantly surprised to see Walken.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't any like but yeah, if you're gonna hire him, you should do more with him for sure.
I was
Get your
also
money's worth.
surprised, yeah, that initially the first couple lines of dialogue, I was like, okay, Walken's like playing a role here, but then there's still some Walken speech in there in the Emperor's dialogue.
Gotta
There was
have
a
little.
yeah, there was a couple pauses, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess if you hire him, that comes with the.
No, that comes with the pack. You
Yeah.
want it. You want that.
You do want a
You
little.
want
bit
that.
of it.
Yeah.
I like there's also another I don't know his name. Maybe he's on this list that I took. There's another actor that I recognize that I quite like that was one of the Harkonnen. He was the first
Mentat?
Mentat. Yeah, and I recognized him and I was excited to see him. And there's something fun about recognizing actors as like more like alien looking species. You're like, hey, I see you.
Yeah, that guy was actually in Prisoners, another podcast movie that we watched.
Mm-hmm.
Are
forget
you
his
sure you're
name.
not conflated? There's two guys that like kind of have this vibe.
We'll look it up after the fact. Maybe somebody can correct us. I'm pretty sure that guy's in Prisoners.
I'm gonna Chris.
Yeah, you better. So would you guys recommend this flick? Is this something you'd tell your friends and family about? Go see Dune?
Certain friends and family.
Yeah, certain people.
Yeah.
It's not everybody's thing.
I can see how some people would be bored.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really try not to recommend almost 3-hour movies unless I know someone is going to be like, that was amazing. Like, you have to have as much excitement to balance out. And there's definitely people like, first of all, I don't think I need to recommend Dune to anybody. I think anybody that will be interested in Dune knows all about it and has already seen
gonna
it.
go see it.
And we're late to the party. People who haven't, I would be more hesitant to recommend it to, because if they don't know about Dune, they're probably not big sci-fi people.
Yeah.
I just had watched Dune yesterday, and
I would have recommended it to probably.
yeah, it didn't exceed.
Mhm.
It's as great of a movie as I thought it was going to be, relative to the source material, you know, and that how much it's got to work with in that way. But I can't say that it wowed me. Like, I'm glad to be able to have the full context of the story. I'm glad to be able to understand who Paul is, the tribulation that he has to go through in this iteration. I like that he did.
Well, let's roll that right into ratings. And you can do them together or separately. I'll leave it up to you.
Like altogether, probably like an 8.5 because like the first one's a 4 for me. Like there's really, like you guys said, technically beautiful. It handles an unbelievable amount of lore in a very masterful. It could have just but it doesn't whatsoever. And it leaves you really hungering for more once the first one's done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel the second one really did go out of its way to satisfy the hunger left by the first one. But it had some niggles to it that we went over, that either because the original didn't have an answer, or the answer was too complex to insert it appropriately, or certain rushings because of time, like, yeah, I feel like it would be damn near impossible. Like you said, it really is like a fault of the medium. Like, I can't imagine a means of being able to tell the story in movie format that would do it justice that way.
Yep.
Like, HBO genuinely has to be the one to make the Dune TV series, to just be like, here's all the money on earth.
That's what it's gonna
tell
take,
the story.
That would
All
be
right.
so cool.
Yeah, please.
It would make a better show. than
Mhm.
a
Yeah,
movie.
10 episodes.
6 seasons.
Yeah, huh? No,
60.
no. I'm just saying one mini series of 10 episodes, 1 hour a pop,
Yeah.
would be all you really need to be able to tell at least Dune 1 and Messiah for the most part, I would imagine. So,
That's about what the sci-fi series is too.
right.
It's pretty dang close to what's described.
Yeah, because otherwise you start getting into like Battlestar Galactica territory, where like there's a lot of filler situations where like the same issue keeps reappearing over and over. You know what I mean? And I like the fact that this is like always has a problem, but it's kind of new every single time. Like, because of like at the beginning, it's like, sure, Paul is kind of the protagonist, but mostly his dad, and then his dad dies, so then the mantle really has to go to Paul. And then at that point, Paul is the protagonist, but he's bumbling. So then the Fremen come, and they're interesting enough to handle the weight until Paul can become interesting enough to actually, keep writing the movie on himself. And then he becomes a demi-human and ends the story. Very Greek, like Greek story kind of to it.
About an 8.5. Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
4.5. What about you?
I think I'm in the same boat. I think I'm kind of waffling between a 4 and 4.5. I think I need to lean up to 4.5 because like the things that knock me down are so specific little things, And I enjoyed almost 6 hours of this, which is like, I don't enjoy 6 hours, hardly anything.
Like most things,
yeah, absolutely. And I think like I was taking notes on the things that I like a little bit and like what my hangups are. And I think like the tense moments are really, really good. And so are like the celebratory moments. Like I said, I spent a lot of this movie with goosebumps. And I think there's a lot to be said for that alone. This is a very moving, it feels like there's sub stories, but when you describe the movie, it just feels like one big story. But I think this movie is super moving and it's super strong. The tense moments are really good, and the still moments feel very like intentional and artful. And they're nice. They're like calming, relaxing. Maybe they feel like little breaks. I don't exactly know why. You said earlier that it's visually stunning. I thought that was a good set of words to describe.
I think Hulu said that, right? But I would echo them. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Hulu. Yeah, the acting was great. And I think my favorite thing about this movie, and this is probably like partial credit to the book and the story itself and partial credit to the directing in the movie, is I don't think I can think of anything that builds cultures as well as this movie does. And it's because they capture it in the little details, in like the way that they interact with each other, the value of water, like little customs, but also just like little regular things, like how you tuck your boots into your pants if you're a Fremen. There's just a lot of, and like their clothing looks different across different kind of houses and groups. And it really makes you feel like it's a tangible thing, like when you interact with other cultures in real life. And I feel like this movie captured that really, really well. My only thing, I'm just aware of the length, and it bums me out a little bit. And maybe just because it is so long, I think Jose hit the nail on the head when he was like, a mini series would be perfect. I would never complain about the length, and would probably get more meat and walk out of it feeling more like I just read the books, and like I know I can tell you, I can give you a rundown on the Dune universe, because like it just feels like too much to try to pack 2 movies. I know they left out a lot because I don't walk out of it feeling like I can give anyone a rundown on the Dune universe. I just don't. I can tell you a little bit, you know. Yeah. So it's both a little long for me and a little too crammed into a small amount of space. But I love damn near everything else about it. It's been great. It's been a joy.
Yeah, considering how long the novel is, I would imagine that the cliff notes of the novel would probably be as long as a script for the novel would be, right?
Guaranteed.
So it makes perfect sense how even the condensed aspects of it would still be that long, you know? And it's like, and we're not getting into the terminology of things, you know? Like,
before I let this move past me too, I did solve this mystery.
Yeah.
And it's actually a little bit funny. So I'm going to share it really quick. I thought you were talking about the guy who plays Alex Jones in the Prisoners movie.
Oh, Paul Dano.
Both the two guys that I was thinking about are in the Prisoners movie. Yeah, Paul Dano is who I thought you were comparing him to.
No, the creepy Mentat guy.
Yeah, that guy's name is David Dastmalchian.
Good enough.
I probably said it wrong, but yeah.
so was it 4 for the first one and 4.5 for the second one for you too, or what? Which one did you like more?
I think I like them almost equally for different reasons.
Well, we don't do 4.25, so.
No, I know. That's where we draw the line.
Yeah.
We do 6 stars. No.
And more.
And more. Yeah, did we just give it 8 points something?
Well, that's spread across too. So that makes.
Yeah, it's hard for me to compare these two to each other, to be honest with you. I think maybe the first one is a 4 leaning up and the second one is a 4.5 leaning down for me.
Wow, that is super interesting. I'm in the same exact boat as you guys. For similar reasons. I think this is probably my favorite iteration, even with its flaws. I thought it did a really good job of sticking to the source material where it mattered. A lot of the dialogue is lifted verbatim, which really appreciate. Yeah, technically speaking, the visuals are stunning. I think the sound direction is awesome. Hans Zimmer, no wonder it's Hans Zimmer. But the bombastic.
See, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a testament to everything else. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Just bombastic, powerful sound direction, used extremely well. I think all the casting is pretty flawless, even with Jason Momoa. I was sort of reconsidering my opinion last night, and even more so when Jose had his back.
I still think his first few lines were delivered pretty poorly. Like at the beginning of the first one, when he first came in, I was like,
unbelievably
so
hammy when he
flat.
first walked in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the stabilizers didn't need help. Yeah, I mean, they did. Yeah. Yeah.
A little hard to swallow.
But the moment he starts talking to Paul, I'm like, okay, I can believe the camaraderie that they're trying to portray there of like little brother, big brother situation. He really works well in that, jovial, you know what I mean, like protector kind of like act.
Fun kind of, I walked out of Game of Thrones after first being introduced to Jason Momoa in that, thinking like up-and-comer stellar actor. Like I was so excited to see him in other things, and then I saw him in other things and I was like, oh, he can't deliver lines. like
So
it's a lot
that's
of
why they
grunting.
had him talking in a made-up language.
Or just not speak for the majority of
Yeah, and I think this was better than
Sit
other
up
stuff.
straight, Jason.
Yeah.
That's all we really need from you. Puff out that chest.
Show us those
He's got
muscles.
the look. Yeah. I mean, I liked him better in this than I have in other things since
He's
Game
a
of
great-
Thrones, but
He's a great set piece actor.
he's
Yeah.
a set piece.
You put him in a scene, you know what I mean? You have him doing the right things, you know what I mean? And everything comes alive. But then, then
His
you get him out of
physical
there.
acting is quite good, I think.
Yeah, it's really good. His fighting sections were really, really good. I mean, a guy his size, I can 100% believe that him being House Atreides, supposedly best in martial class, can take down like 5-6 guys like that.
It makes me wonder how much of it is directing too, though, because I feel like his physical acting too was better in Game of Thrones than it was in Dune. It's like maybe he had really good direction for Game of Thrones.
A lot of people don't like those guys.
Oh, who knows? Maybe
Granted.
maybe it's maybe this is just a negative side effect of him becoming more comfortable in himself, right? Because it's like, he's a very young, up and coming actor in Game of Thrones. So he's like, you tell me what you need, I will do. You know what I mean? And now it's like Jason, Aquaman-ish, kind of Khal Drogo-ish, but you're fun.
I don't even mean like, I don't mean he had an enjoyable experience. I mean like direction that is solid.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Maybe like the chicken dance in Gentleman. Maybe you got to break a little bit before you give the performance you like.
Right, yeah. Another highly recommended, might be worth a podcast, Guy Ritchie series that just dropped on Netflix a little while called The Gentleman. We're halfway. Anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, for all those reasons and more, I think, they're not perfect films, but they're pretty damn good. And I'd probably fall somewhere in the 4-star range for the first one and then 4.5 for the latter. Mostly because the first one is like a lot of edging, and it's not until the second part that you get a lot of that fulfillment. So
yeah, there's no like real micro arc in the first one that you're trying to get to, aside from just the passage of time into the desert.
Yep.
Because like you guys said, like there's no satisfactory part about number one. It's like once you've seen it once, you don't really need to see it again because you kind of already primed enough to see number two, which is the better movie.
Yeah, so probably 4.5, 8.5 altogether. Fantastic job. It really made me excited to see a next part and sort of encouraged me to possibly pick up Messiah again and continue that. Because like you guys, also very interested in the surrounding lore and the universe writ large. I really would like to be more of a Dune nerd than I am. And these movies have inspired me to do that.
Right on. Are there any Dune video games?
I
mean, it seems like this would be a medium ripe to be a video game. If it was 30 hours long and I could find the codexes to like read them on my own time, you know what I mean? Like,
there's an MMO on its way.
Really?
Yeah. People are a little skeptical of it, but it looks pretty cool. I don't know if there's older Dune games. You're absolutely right. There should be.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it seems like it'd be such a waste because it's like, honestly, the moment you can transcend 6 hours, you can have this extend itself in a more comfortable way,
Well, and you can like do the lore dumping really easily in a video game because it's like you find out when you go run into those people and ask them about it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to figure out a way to tell you in the movie.
Yeah, and you can gamify the importance of spice really easily. Be like, if you want to go to the other houses, you have to have enough spice, and it's like your production needs to be just right in Arrakis, and you gotta maintain good relations with the Fremen, or else you'll have to go back. There's a lot of
Yeah, I just saw 3 different video games in my head as you were saying that sentence. Like, yeah, and then it's like a Crusader Kings type game, and then you have
Lightly Stellaris. Yeah.
I do think that I'm going to. I also think this is long, to be clear, longer than it should be. But I do think it will increase my enjoyment in our Dune Imperium Uprising board game, just because it's like, I remember watching a review on this board game and they talked about that. They're like, it's cool because like the theme is really immersive, and I didn't feel like that when we played it. And I think it's because I was so far removed. He's like, if you need like this resource, if you need water, you have to go to the Fremen. And now, like with all of that fresh, I think it'll be.
Yeah, the theme of that board game really played the film as well.
I'm also really happy that we watched this movie just because you guys that got Jared House Secrets, the Dune board game.
Oh, that was a Monte.
Monte, right?
That's a different board game. There's plenty of Dune board games.
Right. Yeah, I saw that he got that one, and then we have it set up when we finish playing Gloomhaven. And I was like, oh, gotta understand the context of what we're gonna be doing here.
Yeah, it helps.
Yep. Well, cool.
Did you give your rating?
Yeah.
What was the number again?
4.5.
4.5.
About the same book, the same boat as you guys. Yeah.
4 first one, 4.5 second.
4, yep, exactly. Yeah, beautiful, gorgeous. Really like a return to form for what cinema should look like in my mind. Very impressed.
At least young adult cinema, right? Because it's like it's supposed to be a movie that seems accessible, and and with the theme and archetype for people who are young adults. You're 16 watching a 16-year-old. You know what I mean? Handle stuff, right? It's like it's not alienating in that way. Where you're watching old men try to figure out old men things. Like
it's weird now. I relate to parents when I watch young adult, like movies and stuff a
Yeah.
lot now.
Those shitty kids.
Well, like at the beginning of it too, it's like relate or not, you know, when they first start and Paul is like at the table with Jessica and she's pushing him. Like in my head, I'm like, stop projecting on him. Like, clearly, you really like the voice. Like,
It's like, what if he has other hobbies?
let him eat. Like,
Maybe he wants to be a pilot. His dad.
no,
No.
rest in peace, Leto.
But I wanted to give a heartfelt thanks to both of you guys for sitting through them. I know it's not like
For the legwork of
actually,
preparations.
yeah, and sitting and watching. 6 hours is not a small investment of time.
Because this was a whole day endeavor, sure.
Yeah,
Almost two at this point. Like, I will accept the thank you.
Yeah, because I
was
started
really
watching number
hesitant.
one around this time yesterday.
Yeah.
it's very important for me that all of my friends have had a little bit of spice inoculation.
Have at least some opinion of it.
I thought it would be a fun podcast to do, but I was like coming out of a long week, heading into another long week, and it was like, how about 24 hours of your weekend goes to Dune?
Just Dune, baby. Nothing but Dune.
Yeah,
this
I've had
weekend.
like no downtime yet, so
Yeah.
let's wrap it up. I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah. If you've made it this far, thanks for tuning in. And
You are the Messiah.
yeah, you guys are the real.
Yeah, you're the real Messiah.
Muad'Dibs. Yeah, out there.
Is it Mahdi? What do they call it?
Mahdi is one, and then Muad'Dib is the name of the little mouse, which he took his name after. Anyway, thanks for listening. We really appreciate you guys being here. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the next one.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.